656 or 087 238 9607 for a sponsorship form.
Well, that's good mixing, Daddy.
You messed that one up a little bit, didn't
You're who's driving the desk here?
No,
I was just thinking before you get into the big. I was thinking, you would be good at the old jiving now. You could swing it around.
Same as yourself.
I would give it a go, but I need a few technical.
I find sometimes you can have the arms pulled out of your shoulders.
I used to
by some women be very strong and
yeah, they take control.
Controlling.
That's all right sometimes too.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Yeah. I used to think when you spin them around, you had to spin them as hard as you could go.
Yes.
And the harder you did that, the better. But that was all wrong. I used to swing them around. You'd nearly break an arm trying to swing some people. Go, way go.
Yeah, I think it's the effect. It's dramatic effect rather than actual physical
Like a roller
force.
coaster. We go. Then you try to catch them on the other side. There's good crack. But I have all the technique wrong. But then you see these nice young people and they're swinging around here and they're swinging the leg here. And they're doing all these fancy moves behind the backs and stuff. And
double, yeah,
yes.
It's amazing. Now the young ones are wild.
Will we leave it to them, will we?
I think so. My hips will not take it.
Well, they're not.
Don't think so.
Come on. Go on ahead.
All right, Lee, have a great Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 6:30, all being well. It is 9 o'clock, though, on the nose. Let's get a news update and cross now to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Miles of queuing traffic has been seen leaving Tehran after Donald Trump warned its 10 million residents they should immediately evacuate. It comes as the conflict between Iran and Israel enters a fifth day. The Taoiseach is attending an emergency meeting of European foreign affairs leaders this morning to discuss the escalating situation between Iran and Israel. Simon Harris says the government's priority is protecting Irish citizens in the region.
We now have around 30 people registered in Iran as Irish citizens. Many of them are long-term residents in Iran. And in Israel we have around 200 people on our citizens registered there. In both Tehran and Tel Aviv, a number of people, a relatively small number, have indicated that should evacuation options become available, they'd like to be considered to avail of them.
The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, meanwhile, says 45 people have been killed after being fired on while waiting for aid. They're said to have been hit with shellfire from an Israeli tank in the southern city of Khan Yunis this morning. Hundreds were reportedly injured. Dozens are said to be critically ill. Israel's ministry has yet to comment. Housing will once again dominate the cabinet meeting this morning ahead of an opposition motion in the Dáil later today. Plans to extend the rent pressure zones to Donegal and other counties which haven't had them up to now will be discussed, as well as the establishment of a new planning authority. The Land Development Agency says over 15,000 homes will be built on its direct delivery sites in the coming years. The agency is appearing before the Oireachtas Housing Committee this afternoon to provide an update on its plans. Over 10,000 homes are in the planning or construction stage, while land to be acquired shortly will provide the basis for a further 5,000. Committee Chair Fine Gael's Micheál Carrigy says any issues must be identified so the delivery of homes can be accelerated.
They're the real crux of the question, that we want to find out where these roadblocks are, identify them, and then bring in changes to remove these roadblocks and ultimately deliver a higher number of units.
More schools are being urged to allow generic uniforms to reduce costs. A third of parents believe they're not getting good value for money, according to a new survey by the Consumer Watchdog. The report by the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission is highlighting the back-to-school costs on families. Director of Communications with the CCPC, Grania Griffin, says many schools have verbal agreements with retailers, and that needs to be looked at.
These arrangements are just that long-standing, but even if there was a written agreement in place, I mean, really what you'd want to see is that arrangement reviewed every 2 to 3 years, to make sure that the companies that are supplying your uniforms or your devices are really offering good value, good service. You know, the parents are getting what they pay for.
Well, the forecast cloudy this morning with patchy rain and drizzle clearing away. That cloud breaking up later with plenty of sunshine and dry weather to follow. Top temperatures today 16 to 19 degrees Celsius in westerly breezes. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock. Check all the latest news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, have a very good morning.
Will you have a pint, Gareth?
Sure, I can always take the quiet road home.
John has just seen Gareth order a pint. He knows his friend is planning to drink and drive. Should he say something, or just let it slide? Again.
Hey, cheers, John.
Oh, yeah. Cheers, man.
Drink driving kills. Don't let your friends drink and drive. A message from the Road Safety Authority. Visit rsa.ie.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9 on this Tuesday, the 17th of July, 2025. How are you? I hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in to us here on the 9 till Noon Show. You won't regret it. Over the next 3 hours, we've got so much coming up on the programme. We're going to have great chats with great people. We're going to be highlighting some of the issues that are important to you. We've got community Garda information, that and so much more besides. Right, so it's your show. Get involved in that conversation. 086 60 25,000. Maybe you've got an issue you want to raise with us. Give us a call on 07491 25,000. And of course, email comments@highlandradio.com. And if you're listening to the podcast or the repeat, the early morning repeat, feel free to email comments@highlandradio.com. We'll pick up your comment and include it in the next live show, I guarantee. And if you want to watch the show, maybe you're at home, working in the home, we're on YouTube, so you can open up your Fire Stick or your smart TV, open the YouTube app, type in Highland Radio Ireland, give us a like and a subscribe, and just watch the show as you would any TV show. And we're on the X platform, August, the Facebook pages as well. You heard it in the news there, and we've been talking about this for so long. It's the pressures of sending children back to school. It was always like the books, you had to get new books every year, and we seem to be making some inroads into that. But then it's the uniforms, and it's the sportswear and all that kind of stuff. And you know yourself, some schools only have one supplier, and if you want to go to the to get your uniform, there's no iron-on crests. You have to go and get it embroidered, and there's no way to shop around. Well, the government's trying to make changes in this regard. We've been down this road before. I do wonder, as we are the most deprived county in Ireland, if you would like to see these rules enforced. So the rules, according to the Irish Times, the rules covering uniform supplies and technology put in place by many schools could be needlessly increasing costs for parents while harming competition across the education sector, the consumer watchdog has warned. The Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, I attribute this to the government, it's something being flagged by the CCPC, my apologies, has written to primary and post-primary schools outlining a series of recommendations on back-to-school costs. It is advising schools to use generic uniform items and ensure a competitive process underpins the appointment of any exclusive suppliers for school uniforms, tech devices and software. Now, I know parents who are already doing the uniforms for September because they have to get them in parts because they're so expensive. So if you have any examples there of your school, how much is the uniform, particularly if you don't have a choice or you can't get a crest, just curious to get a sample in Donegal in the wider Northwest. What are the costs, of a jumper? Is there 2 or 3 places that you can shop around, or do you have to go to the one place? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. The CCPC has also asked schools to consider whether arrangements are likely to restrict competition and increase costs for parents and guardians during the upcoming back-to-school season. Now, they're still at school for this year, most of them, but you know what I mean. So just really interested to find out in what areas too you might have concerns. As I say, really it would be about having to get crested jumpers or tracksuits or what have you. What's the cost? Are there cheaper alternatives, or do you have to go down this route? Have we made any improvements in that regard? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. Everything that happens globally is local. So, you'd often wonder, whilst we keep a close eye on what's happening in the Middle East, whilst we aren't directly affected by it as it might seem, we really are, because it is a big oil-producing part of the world, and they're starting to bomb each other's oil networks as well. And that means that fuel and heating prices are soaring, not now, probably, when we don't need it as much, but as we head into the winter. So I'll read on from the Irish Independent. The Israeli attacks on Iran have prompted fears that petrol, diesel and home heating oil prices will shoot up. Petrol and diesel prices have been rising for days, and there's also been a surge in the cost of home heating oil. The price of 1,000 litres of heating oil has risen by €25 in the past few days, with energy experts expecting more hikes. Brent crude is up by 8% since the first strikes on Iran last Friday and was up by 13% at one stage. This has raised fears of even higher increases in the price of petrol, diesel and heating oil. Late on Saturday, Iran and Israel struck a key fuel depot while an oil refinery in the capital, Tehran, was also in flames. So they're bombing each other's infrastructure, and it is going to cost us as well. Iran has also partially suspended production at the world's biggest gas field, the South Pars, after an Israeli strike caused a fire there. And of course, the way we attribute VAT and our carbon levies, it all increases. That all increases in line with the core price increase as well. So we get it kind of every which way. Interesting survey out about, how we consume news, where we trust our news. The picture in Ireland is different to other countries. Irish people are more interested in the news and have better trust in mainstream media compared to the UK and the US. 56% of you say they are extremely or very interested in news, according to the Irish Digital News Report 2025 published today. This is higher than the UK at 39% or the US at 51%, and ahead of the European average at 45%. So 45% of Europeans are interested in news, but in Ireland that number is 56, which is really quite interesting. Irish people have a higher interest in news, up to 3% on last year. It's fallen significantly, though, from a peak of 70%. You will know that would have been during the pandemic. Just 3% of those surveyed in this country said they are not at all interested in the news. Irish audiences also trust mainstream news outlets more compared to other countries, with 50% saying they trust the news most of the time. And it's really quite interesting that local or regional radio, 72% of you see that as the most trusted brand. In fairness to papers, a lot of trust there as well, 71%. RTE News too, trust in RTE News is at 72%, which is I think that's it. And I'm not saying it's not trustworthy. Of course, it is that though. I just thought between independent media and state media, I thought there would be a little bit of a variance, but there doesn't seem to be. But it's still, the figures are incredibly high. The Irish Daily Sun this morning: low-income families look set for a cash boost after Micheál Martin said nothing is off the table in the upcoming budget. The Taoiseach vowed the government will focus on two key issues: improving disability services and tackling child poverty. However, income tax cuts for workers look set to be sacrificed in order to lower the VAT rate for the hospitality sector. What do you think about that? So something's got to give in order to lower the VAT rate for the hospitality sector, which is not just our local excellent offerings. It's also potentially to the gougers in Dublin. You're not going to get a cut in your income tax, so that can be funded. I don't know what you think about that. Minister Pascal Donoghue yesterday warned that tough decisions need to be made. A previous report from the ESRI recommended a second tier of child benefit for lower income families to help tackle child poverty in Ireland. This would be means tested and paid at a higher rate in the universal they've made a mistake here, than the universal monthly 140 payment for all youngsters, which I think is, I know there is sort of this sense that all children must be treated equally and what have you, but I would be very much in favour of any excess money being targeted to those that need it the most. We are seeing an increase in children who are impoverished long term, and we claim to be a rich country, so that's crazy. So if they do that, I'd be very much in favour of that. Target the money, means test it so the people that need it most get it, not at the expense of others, but you know where I'm coming from. Right, towards the end of the programme, we were flagging that a pre-excavation was to begin at the notorious former mother and baby home. Well, it did begin yesterday. The preparatory phase, which will last around 4 weeks, comes ahead of the full-scale excavation of the site in Tuam, County Galway, to try to identify the remains of infants who died at the home between 1925 and 1961. In 2014, research led by historian Catherine Corliss, who was on with us yesterday, indicated that 796 babies and young children were buried in a sewage system at the institution across that period of time. What a huge amount of sadness there. Okay, that was a run through the newspapers this morning. Not too many of them about. If you want to comment on any of that, of course, 086 60 25,000, WhatsApps and text, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. We'll be back with our first guest very shortly.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
GiveBlood.ie know we can count on you, our community of blood donors, to be there for others in their hour of need. Blood donors from Buncrana should attend the clinic in the Inishowen Gateway Hotel on Monday 16th and Tuesday 17th of June, and donors from Carndonna should attend the clinic in the Carndonna Community School on Wednesday 18th and Thursday 19th. Making an appointment is recommended, so call 1-800-731-137 or visit our website to book your time. New donors are vital. Visit GiveBlood.ie to check eligibility and clinic details, because we count on you.
Discover the charm of Maple Moville, your one-stop shop with something for everyone. Grab your favourite Costa Coffee Express, the only one in Inishowen. Treat yourself to fresh home-baked goodies or indulge in creamy smooch ice cream and milkshakes made to order with real dairy ice cream. Whether you're planning a quiet night in or a weekend get-together, we've got your refreshments covered. Not forgetting our tasty deli, and you can fuel up with apple green. Maple Moville, fresh, convenient and local.
T-Shirt Express has moved. You'll now find us beside C&M Embroidery, Lismonaghan, Letterkenny. We're still your go-to spot for custom T-shirts, workwear, gifts and balloons. Just in a fresh new location. You can still reach us on the same number, 086 343 3504. T-Shirt Express, now beside C&M Embroidery, Lismonaghan, Letterkenny.
Raleigh fever is building in the northwest. Join Highland Radio for live coverage of the Donegal International Rally on air and online at highlandradio.com. In association with Voodoo Venue Letterkenny, Donegal's premier entertainment venue. Where this Rally Friday, playing live It's My Generation.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
It's 16 minutes past 9. Now, I'm joined on the programme by Bishop Michael Reuter of the Irish Bishops' Drugs Initiative. Good morning, Bishop. Thank you so much for your time.
How are you?
I'm doing good, and it's great to have you with us. And we're talking about changes to for children making their confirmation next year. It's quite an interesting one. What traditionally has been the pledge, Bishop?
Well, traditionally, the pledge was added to the confirmation ceremony in Ireland. It's specifically an Irish thing back in the 1930s. It happened after the Eucharistic Congress, and it was linked to the temperance movement that had grown in Ireland since the late 19th century. And over the years, it was basically alcohol, asking the young people who were receiving confirmation to abstain from alcohol till they were 18 years of age. About 30 years ago or so, drugs was added to that as well, illegal drugs. So the pledge has been very much part and parcel of the tradition, I suppose, of people receiving confirmation in this country.
I remember when we made the pledge, or I made the pledge, and it was the pre-drugs being added in, I must say. It felt significant. You know, it did feel significant. Do young people in your experience, Bishop, still take it as seriously? You know, because it was sort of it grew in significance because of how we were prepared in school, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I think it's quite significant because when you think about it, it's the first major decision that young people at that age, you know, 11, 12 years of age, take about their future in a way. And it was always significant. It was significant for me as well. I made my confirmation in the mid-70s. It was simply about alcohol, as you say, at that stage as well. Over the years, it's changed a little bit. There was a period of time where there was a question mark about whether we should be asking young people to make this commitment at that stage in their lives. So a lot of parishes changed their practice. Some of them did away with it altogether, really just let it die effectively. Others then linked it to the Ceremony of Light, which is one of the ceremonies in the parish in preparation for confirmation. So it wasn't part of the actual ceremony itself. So I'd say only about maybe less than a third of ceremonies nowadays would you actually hear the bishop or the priest talk about the pledge as such and ask the children to take it.
Really? That's
also.
Sorry, Bishop.
Yes.
I thought this was pretty standard. No, so I know you may have.
No, it's not. It's not as standard as it used to be. It used to be right across the board. But I suppose from the sort of late 80s, early 90s onwards, the practice did change. And it became a more private thing. In the past, when I did it at my confirmation, we stood up and we took the pledge, and everybody did, and everyone saw who was taking the pledge in the church. So there was no hiding place, really, in a way. But that changed, as I said, and it became part of the preparation for confirmation rather than the confirmation ceremony itself. And even when it was done at the confirmation ceremony, if any confirmation ceremony I do it at nowadays, you would ask, the children to repeat the words after you if they were taking the pledge. Not all of them decide to do so. But they wouldn't stand up. It would be done quietly, just to protect them from being, that they don't stand out from the crowd, or the ones who aren't taking it don't stand out either, So it's just a more private thing. But I think it's still very important because it's a huge opportunity to raise awareness.
Yeah, okay, but I mean,
the issues around alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the listeners think about the change there, or what but it is changing next year, which I think is really interesting, and I think it's probably going to be one of the only triggers really for a good conversation at a good age, in my view, about smoking to a lesser extent, but particularly vaping.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the vaping issue has only really appeared on the scene in the last couple of years. And it's only really in the last year or so that awareness has arisen about the dangers that is involved in vaping. That some of the vapes contain synthetic cannabis, synthetic cannabinoids, and they can have a very serious effect on a young person. And vapes are quite popular with young people, unfortunately, and quite readily available. And we've had a few, like I'm the liaison bishop of the Irish Bishops' Drugs Initiative, and a number of parents have contacted the Drugs Initiative to ask for information about vapes, ask that we, talk about vapes when our liaison, or our director, Darren Butler, goes to schools to speak to schools, that he would speak about vaping, because there's been a few serious incidents. In fact, Dr. Bobby Smith, who is the leading psychiatrist, adolescent psychiatrist in the country, he has said that in the past year, about 20 to 25% of the cases that present to him include problems with vaping.
I mean, in no situation, I don't think we should ever want, whether it be energy drinks or whatever, someone who's still physically and mentally developing as well, to become dependent on one of the hardest things to kick, nicotine. Even if we weren't to talk about the potential health issues, simply having someone dependent on inhaling a burnt vapor, and the impact that might have on their developing brain and body, in and of itself is good enough reason to say, hold on you a second, relax here, because it is, I think it's seen as okay amongst an awful lot of young people, to be honest with you. Not that bad, not too bad, yes. And cool, because they can do their smoke rings and they can do all this type of stuff. So it's the perfect storm for a early teen addiction.
Yes, and we have very little idea what actually is in most of the vapes. And even though the vapes are sold in specialist shops where there isn't supposed to be anyone under 18 there, we have lots of cases where 16 and 17-year-olds have been sold vapes. It's very difficult, I suppose, unless you ask for an ID, it's very difficult to know the difference sometimes. But these vapes are having serious psychotic effects because it's not all just nicotine. When you're talking about a synthetic cannabis, that's very serious for a young and developing brain. And it has had huge repercussions across the country. Like to say that in a year, 20 to 25% of cases presenting now for adolescent psychiatric services are relating to vapes. That is a remarkable jump.
Yeah, and it's a very important point you make, actually, because you know, whilst we might think it's bad enough that your young person is vaping liquid that contains nicotine, the CBD or whatever it's marketed as is widely available. So you might think, wow, it's terrible that my young person is vaping nicotine, when in fact, outside of your knowledge, they may actually be taking something far more serious. Stay with me, Bishop, because our father, John Joe Duffy, joins us as well. Good morning, John Joe. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, and you're backing the Bishop on this one.
Yeah, Greg, good morning. Good morning, Bishop Michael. Good morning, listeners.
Good morning,
I very
Joe.
much back good morning. I very much back the initiative of the Bishop and the Bishops' Conference and the particular committee. So thank you, Bishop. I think it's to be very much welcomed. It's very timely as well, in that in England or in the United Kingdom, they are banning single vapes in order to protect children, because you can buy a vape at €5 in shops, and the single vapes are very easily accessible for young people, and they're cheaper as well. And I think, again, it shows the concern the church has been cognizant of the many issues facing young people and the many mental health issues facing young people, that and the trends that young people are under pressure to follow, trends that you get from social media and from peer pressure and so on, from social media and influencers and so on. So I think it's a great initiative on the part of the church, recognising the many issues facing young people and trying to help them and trying to encourage them and trying to get debate going about vapes and the drugs, alcohol. 1 in 5 deaths in Ireland is related to lung disease. So this is a wonderful initiative, and I thank the Bishop and all involved.
Yeah, Father John Joe, stay there for a moment. Bishop Michael Ruta, before I let you go, we do have a vacancy in this part of the world, Bishop of Rafo, and I'm just wondering if it's... I've had your name linked to it on more than one occasion, Bishop. Have you any exclusive for me, or have you any expression of interest, or what can you say, if anything?
Absolutely none, Greg. There's always, when there's this interregnum between one bishop and another, there's loads of names that go around, and I mean, we're not part of this decision, discussion that goes on at a different level. It's well above my pay grade, so I'm afraid I can't offer any.
Would you be open to the conversation? Let me ask.
Well, I think we're having the conversation now, and that's about as much as I can do for you at the moment, unfortunately. So it is. So sorry about that, Greg.
Not at all.
But I can't give you any.
All I would say is that you.
all
I can say is you'd be incredibly welcome, and we appreciate this too in keeping an eye out for our children. Thank you so much, Bishop.
Thank you very much.
Take care of yourself. Father John Joe, before I let you go, if you don't mind, obviously, yes, you're a very vocal person in the community, and you take that role really quite seriously. I did note that you put out just a little bit of information for people to exercise caution in, around the place off the back of an alleged attempted abduction, which is being investigated by Garda, and you urged vigilance. We're not going to get into the ins and outs of it, for we simply don't know. But you must have been hearing a lot of concerns for you to decide to intervene, sort of, I suppose, in that way.
Well, the concerns were reported by the media, and the Gardaí said that there was an incident. What sort of incident that is, I do not know, other than it was an incident around somebody seemingly walking on the road. And I suppose when I say to be careful, it is something that we all need to be. Everyone needs to be careful, especially around children, around women, and around vulnerable adults. And it is very important and vital that we always urge people to be careful and seek to protect people, as we're doing in this particular issue with the vaping, to protect people as they walk on the roads and so on in all sorts of ways. So
And I think the message was to be...
I think if anyone has any information in relation to that matter, to give it to the Gardaí or any other matter like that, to pass that on to the Gardaí, because it is so vitally important that our communities are safe places for people to walk freely and openly, and not to be in any way attempted to be coerced into a car or whatever the case may be. And I'm not particularly aware of the particular details of this incident, other than what was reported on Highland Radio and also in breaking news where I picked it up.
Be calm and cautious. I think it's very fine advice in any scenario or wherever you are, and keep an eye out on each other.
And should anyone stop to pick anyone up, be that anyone, from adult to child or a vulnerable, just be calm, be cautious, and don't get into a car with anyone, or if you're invited into a car, be very careful, especially around people that you have no knowledge of and don't know, and that's so important. And I thank the Gardaí for the work that they are doing in relation to this and other matters. But in our communities, we have to be cautious ourselves as well, and that's a sad reality, isn't it?
It is indeed, Father. It's a changing. It feels changing anyway. Of course, or we're more aware. I don't. You know what I mean. Sometimes you don't know which it is. But Father John Joe, as always, thank you so very much indeed. I really appreciate your time. Take care, Father John Joe Duffy there, who initially came on to welcome the Bishop. Stating that from next year, vapes and smoking will be included in that pledge. Interested to hear that the pledge changed. I thought, and maybe it's just I'm showing my age, I thought standing up and making the pledge, that's what for me sort of gave it its significance. Not that I adhered to it for very long, just to be completely honest. But now it's done for the most part, seemingly in most cases, where you if you wish to privately, you follow the words of whomever is overseeing the confirmation. There you go. Learn something every day. 086 60 25,000. A caller says medical science consistently shows that delaying the onset of alcohol consumption, smoking and vaping has significant long-term benefits for brain development, physical health and reducing the risk of addiction. The pledge encourages healthier lifestyle choices. Delighted to hear the Bishop introducing this. Indeed. I think that's going to have a broad welcome amongst the Catholics that would be making confirmation, or have those who might. Doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, of course.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Celebrate your love at the award-winning Villa Rose Hotel and Spa Ballybuffet. The elegant Cadbury Suite hosts up to 300 guests with a private garden and romantic stone cottage for unforgettable wedding photos. Experience exceptional service that turns your dream wedding into reality. Visit villarose.ie to start planning.
Welcome to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms in Donegal Town. Discover affordable luxury with our bespoke fitted furniture solutions. With almost 30 years of serving Ireland and the North West, we're your trusted experts. Visit us Monday to Friday 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Book your free consultation today on 074 9725 or visit cherrymore.ie. Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, where affordability and luxury combine.
At iMotors, it's not just about cars, it's about great experiences. Just ask Michelle.
I recently purchased a car with Gavin at iMotors. Very professional, happy to help, and the trade-in was seamless.
If it worked for Michelle, it can work for you too. Browse trusted used cars now at imotors.ie or visit their showroom today in Letterkenny or Malin.
iMotors, fearless generation.
Get ready for big savings in the Hillary Summer Sale. Enjoy up to 50% off hundreds of made-to-measure blinds, curtains and shutters. Plus, there's €50 off your blind order when you choose electric, making controlling your blinds a breeze. And if you find the same product with the same service for less, we'll match the price. Book your free in-home appointment today at hillarys.ie. Don't settle for off the shelf. Let us take the stress away. It's what we've been doing for over 40 years. Hillary's Summer Sale. For the window wise. Conditions apply.
Experiencing bladder issues? The integrated specialist continence care team of nurses and physiotherapists provide personalised, compassionate support to help you manage your urinary continence with confidence and care. Talk to your GP today about a referral.
You welcome back to the programme. Right, a caller says, sounds like an enforcement issue to me. Punish shops for selling vapes to kids. It's absolutely mad. We've moved straight to ban for adults because they didn't stop vapes selling to kids. Like, it's not that hard. We do it for smokers and drinkers already. Well, there's loads of vape shops that you can go into if you wish, and you can go and you can buy your mods and your coils and your liquids and all that type of stuff. And to be honest with you, I wonder how many of you are vaping know how much nicotine actually is in the vape that you're taking. You know, you can get nicotine 0, 3, 6, 12. I think those disposable vapes of nicotine in can be anything from 18 to 25, like way more nicotine than you might get in a cigarette. So there are shops out there that you can go in still, and you can go in still. And anyway, you can still get single-use vapes here at the moment. They're looking to ban them, but there are shops that you can go in and get whatever you like if you so wish. Greg, just to let people know, opt-out organ donation is not live until 10. Doesn't say that on the website. You wouldn't need to pass on between now and then. What is your views on that? There seems to be a very anti-move to this. By the way, from today, you are an organ donor. You're an organ donor if you're an adult in Ireland, unless you state otherwise. And we'll get you the link for that because there seems to be a bit of a pushback on it. Last year, there were something like 270,000 organ donations. 270, sorry. I'll get that figure, but 270. So it's from a pretty low base. These are life-saving organ donations. But there seems to be this conversation as if it's about, you know, the government owning your body after you die and all that type of stuff. I don't know. I don't see it like that. Some people do. But anyway, just to note that from today, if you're an adult and if you haven't opted out, you are an organ donor. Right, now, Gavin Walker is chair of campaign My Death, My Decision, and he joins us on the programme right now. Good morning to you, Gavin. Thank you for your time.
Very good morning, and good morning to your listeners. How are you?
I am doing good. Now, MPs are preparing to cast their final votes on whether they believe assisted dying should be legalised for terminally ill patients. Obviously, a move that you'd be very much in favour of?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it only applies to England and Wales, that particular piece of legislation. But nevertheless, it would be certainly a big step forward. There are some things about the legislation that perhaps people have concerns around, but at least they're having a conversation in England and Wales, as indeed you are in the Republic. But here in Northern Ireland, absolutely no conversation whatsoever. So we're way behind as far as this is concerned. But it's important to us that on Friday, this piece of legislation passes, because it then puts the pressure on our local elected representatives to hopefully finally grasp this particular issue and go with it. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't have the conversation.
A lot of people have concerns about it too, and a lot of them are coming from within the medical industry, particularly those that have been in it for some time. The fear that, you know, that this, I don't want to put words in the mouth, but the impression I get from them that it in some way it devalues life and the level of care that they provide, and trying to make people's lives as long and as comfortable as possible. And just sort of, we could find a situation whereby, you know, if you get older or terminally ill, that you just, you know, cast to one side, do the right thing, you know, make your decision, stop being a burden.
Well, the number of things there. First of all, being older is not criteria for having an assisted death. You need to have Most legislation around the world means that you have to have a terminal illness.
No, sorry, I presumed that. Sorry, I should have made that clear, Gavin. I meant sort of like with a cancer or MS, or and also, say for instance, we have this conversation about if someone has cancer, right? Whether they're sent for treatment because of their age. It's a conversation that B's had. But anyway, thanks for clarifying that, nonetheless, Gavin. But continue.
No, it's okay, because it's just sometimes people do get concerned around this and have certain issues around this that really are not based on fact. So I just want to be sure that we're clear there. So the reality is, though, if you have if you've been given a terminal diagnosis, your life is upside down. Everything is just completely confused for you. Having an opportunity then to decide, because you're now on a pathway to a death, sadly. So giving somebody the autonomy to make a decision for themselves as to how they want to end their life, when they want to end it, and who they want to have there with them, I think is something that is really a human right. Now, not everybody will want to take advantage of this, and in fact, whenever you look at the various jurisdictions around the world, and Greg, at the moment it's available in about 31 jurisdictions around the world. The facts show that a lot of people don't even apply for assisted death. Those that do, very few of them actually go through with it in the end because they've had a comfortable death. They're quite happy to use the palliative care they have available to them. But for those few people that actually want to take this as their choice, I think that's a right they should have. I don't think it's a threat to anybody else. Obviously, there needs to be some different things in place to make sure that people aren't coerced into it. And
does it matter what someone's motivation to make that choice were? Let me go back to the sort of the burden comment. So does it matter if someone, say for instance, in their 50s is diagnosed with a terminal illness? Would MS, for an example, be classed as a terminal illness?
Yes, it is.
Okay, right. So let's say MS, for an example, and we have someone in our family that lived with MS for almost 30 years, but be that as it may. Does it matter if their motivation is because they don't themselves want to slowly deteriorate, or whether or not they're thinking of those around them and say, I don't want to put my family through this. I don't want them to be burdened with my care. Not that we'd see it as a burden, right? So does it matter which of those is their motivation, in your view, to seek assisted dying?
Well, ultimately, I think it's it has to be their decision, and we need to be clear that they've come to that decision clearly in their own minds. Of course, we don't want people to feel like they are a burden, but the reality is that we do, and not only people who have terminal illnesses. If you have the flu for a week and you're in bed and you're having to be looked after, you feel a bit of a burden. Not that I'm comparing the two, but nevertheless, being a burden, I think, is just a reality, and we can't get rid of that. People should not, by any means, take that as the reason to have an assisted death. But I think it would be unfair to say that wouldn't be a consideration for them. The important thing is that people come to the decision themselves, a clear decision, not coerced into it, and that they know exactly what it is they want. And evidence shows, again, and I do think it's important. Don't take my word for it. I do think it's important your listeners gather the evidence around themselves.
No, it's always critical. Research. It's always critical for sure.
It absolutely is, because there are, on both sides of the campaign, because this is a fairly emotional subject, people who will be a little bit over the top with whatever it is they're trying to promote. So I think it's important that we each individually come to this decision ourselves, because ultimately it'll be us who has to make a decision as to whether we do or do not want to have an assisted death. I think the frustrating thing at the moment is that the government, your government is not, I say your government, the government of the South
Understood, yeah.
has gone through the whole process of having a committee in place, a report is in the Oireachtas, but they aren't actually moving this forward. That is really, really not only frustrating, but I think cruel to those who are sitting waiting to hear if they can take advantage of this or not. And here in the North, as I say,
these are in no man's land. Yeah, you're stuck between two countries that are having the conversation, and it's not even being had in Northern Ireland. What protections would be in place in Britain, for an example, to ensure that someone isn't being coerced and that they are sort of sound mind to make that decision for themselves?
Yeah, well, within the bill at the moment at Westminster, In order to qualify for an assisted death, you need to have, first of all, you have to have a terminal illness. At this stage, you have to be have a prognosis of 6 months to your death. In itself, that's cruel. I'm happy to talk about that, but I think that's quite a cruel choice. So those are the two criteria you have to be within. Then you have to have two doctors who say that you are in sound mind. Then you need to go before a panel, and then at the end of all of that, you would then be able to have your assisted death should you choose to do so. But to be absolutely honest with you, those last 6 months of somebody's life, to have to go through the whole process that requires, I think, is cruel and unnecessary. And to give you an idea, in the Isle of Man, for example, it's 12 months. And in Scotland, if and when that goes through, as soon as you have actually had your terminal diagnosis, you'll be able to apply for assisted death.
Yeah, which is similar, I think, in other European countries as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any provision for mental health to be considered for assisted dying?
No,
I don't know. I don't know. In other words, if it's probably no is the answer. But is there any provision whereby someone could be suffering irreparably as they might feel it with mental health, depression, or what have you, and be able to avail of assisted dying legally?
No, there isn't, and that it would be at this point nowhere around the world is that given credence. However, having said that, and people will obviously quote this, in Canada at the moment they are considering that particular step, which they will look at, I think, in March of next year. Not necessarily that they'll go ahead with that, but that's a whole different argument. I think we're way.
Yeah. See, what I struggle with this, just as a person, is I find it very hard to really judge on someone else or what position they're in. I find it hard to be sort of say, oh, you can't do that, but sure, I don't know what it might be like for that person who I might love and respect and might want that. And then at the same time, it's just a difficult one. It's a real dilemma because, firstly you say, well, what if it was me? And then you say, well, what if it was someone close to me? Would I want to see them suffer? But then you sort of think, well, could it change our view of life? Because you say, for instance, in the issue of abortion, right? And they're very different, but they're kind of morally the same, of course. People voted here to have abortions to allow abortions, in certain circumstances. But then those circumstances, as it turns out, an awful lot more abortions are taking place than people might have anticipated. And I think that also is what people get nervous of. Sorry if I'm conflating two issues, is that it starts off all well and good, all checks and balance and all for the right reasons. And then it does accelerate whereby it's about old age or just if you fancy it. Do you get where I'm coming from, Gavin? And I think that's where I think there's a distrust of sometimes our legislators to do as they say they will.
I understand that entirely. That very often called the slippery slope.
Yeah.
Once you start down this road, where does it end? Well, the truth of the matter, Greg, is that in some countries around the world, their criteria has changed. But that's not a slippery slope. That's democracy at work. Whenever women were given the vote, the argument was, if you give them this, what else are they going to want? So you really can't take that, because democracy works as communities get used to ideas, as communities get used to different ways of doing things. They change. I mean, your state shows that in dramatic and very positive ways. So I don't think that's really particularly a relevant reason not to have the legislation. It's a very relevant reason to have very strict relevant legislation. For example, in Westminster, any change to the criteria will require a new bill to come through. So that is, I think, a fairly strict criteria to have in place. And it means that the people of England and Wales can be fairly sure that if they're going to widen the criteria in any way, they're going to have to go through this whole process again to do that. And to me, that's fair, because I think the conversation has to be had, and if necessary, has to be had again if you're going to try and widen the criteria. So I don't think it's something we need to be concerned about. I do appreciate that people would have some thoughts about that. It's not a reason not to do it. It's a reason to be conscious of it and to maybe revisit it every 3 to 5 years, which they do regularly in most jurisdictions around the world. and make sure you've got it right, and if necessary, change it. But I've got a reason not to do it.
God forbid, Gavin, if you found yourself in that position, are you sure that you would choose to expedite your passing?
Positive.
Really?
In fact, to the very point where I would be prepared to travel to Switzerland to do so. Now, but this is where there's also.
Can I ask what it is to avoid, or is that too personal a question?
Sorry, say it again, please.
Why are you so sure that you would want to die as soon as you possibly could? How do you know that you might not say, do you know what, stuff it, I'm going to just use any time I have to travel or spend time with family? And I hope that doesn't come across as trying to use an emotive argument or be personal. It's not my motivation at all. But like, how can you be so certain that you wouldn't want to eke out every last breath?
Well, I would like to eke out as much breath as I could to make that absolutely clear. But it will get to the stage where if I'm starting to lose my sense of dignity or my sense of self, I do not want that. I certainly do not want my children or grandchildren to remember me as somebody in the corner in a semi-coma who's just gradually floating away to death, or indeed have a painful death.
I just think in that situation, if my grandchildren said, and again, I don't want to, not personal, but they said to me, look, you know, I know what you think, but we want to do this. You've done so much for us. Don't do it, Greg, because we just want every moment with you. And if you were to do so, you think you're doing something good for us, but actually what you're doing is robbing us of time with you. And I just wonder then, in that situation, would I change my views if they were similar to yours?
Well, I'm fairly clear that I wouldn't. Now, I don't know what in the last minute what I would actually do, but I'm fairly clear that I would not. I would simply explain to my grandchildren that I've enjoyed my time with them, but the time has now come to an end, and it's going to come to an end at some stage. And I know it's going to come to an end, but I want it to come to an end at a time when I can have them close to me, when I can know that they are there, when I can choose the actual last time of my death, rather than having to sit and wait for something to come to me that I know is coming anyway. Now, that's how I feel. I'm assuming, of course, I'd be losing my dignity and everything else. So it's very possible that I would have a very, even if I have a terminal illness, I could have a very comfortable death and not even want to take advantage.
Yeah, and what is dignity? You know, what is dignity? You know, like if I'm... Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's a complex one. Gavin, listen, thanks for the chat. And as you say, it's very important that people source their own information in relation to this, because on any argument, you've got people with an extreme view on one side or other, and then they'll try and conflate it with other stuff, and then they'll try and throw in emotional stuff and clear the decks. Think about this yourself and look into it. I think it's always valuable, and hopefully this conversation has helped in some way or other. Gavin Walker, Chair of Campaign Group My Death, My Decision. Take care.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, bye-bye. A caller says, Esther Ranson was such a supporter of end-of-life choice, but when it came to it, she did not take that choice. And I've heard from Gavin there, he's pretty resolute, but also didn't rule out the fact that he might change his mind. So we have to be careful that I suppose when we're arguing for something like this is... Yeah, okay. What do you think? 086 60 25,000. As I say, I don't know, and I find it hard to... I couldn't judge anyone in this... You know, I've done the interviews with husbands of wives that just want to be able to go out on their terms. Is the one that springs to mind just right now. And how could I, in my comfortable, currently healthy situation, dictate to them how they should spend, you know, their lives in pain or discomfort or dignity being a factor? I wouldn't be too worried about my dignity, but some people might. I did it for them. They can do it for me if that's what it comes down to. All right, let's take a break. Back with the weather.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Your new 252 could be just around the corner thanks to a great scrappage deal available right now at Divers Hyundai in Letterkenny, with up to €3,500 for your trade-in on selected models. Some terms and conditions apply, but hurry, this offer only lasts until June the 30th at Divers Hyundai, Canal Road, Letterkenny. Call 9122 600 or see diversgarage.ie. A new 252 with up to €3,500 available for scrappage. For details, contact Divers today.
Fly EasyJet from City of Derry Airport to Edinburgh, Liverpool, or now from the 1st of September, Birmingham. Book now at easyjet.com. Get out there.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who has the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'll be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'll be them. 07491 43942.
At Warehouse Bar and Kitchen, Main Street, Letterkenny, you'll find mouth-watering food and drinks served 7 days a week. Great deals with Tuesday burger night, Thursday steak night, Fizzy Friday and weekend brunch. There's live music every weekend and the perfect spot for your private parties. Follow Warehouse Bar and Kitchen on social media for specials and updates.
If you're getting new furniture or it's time for a change, pay a visit to McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny. There you'll find a selection of suites, beds and bedroom furniture, dining room and occasional furniture. You'll be amazed by the selection and pleasantly surprised by the prices. At McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. And online at mcginleysfurniture.com.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mchelhennys.com today.
One thing I've noticed with the weather app, it just doesn't seem to know what's going to happen Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. At one stage it's cloudy and a bit of rain. The next stage it's windy and not windy. And but anyway, we shall just have to wait and see. I can give you with some certainty what today has in store. Cloudy this morning with patchy rain and drizzle clearing away. We woke up to that, really. The cloud then will break up later with plenty of sunshine and dry weather following. Highest temperatures of 16 to 19 degrees in westerly breezes, which up around the Fanad Peninsula are predicted to be around about 30 kilometres per hour, as I say, in a westerly direction. Aquila says, when you get married to someone you love, you make a promise in sickness and in health. It seems very cold to me. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of the conversation about assisted dying is kind of like about gut and what would you do in your situation? What would you want to be able to do? I really find it very difficult to have a strong opinion that could impact negatively on somebody else when it's not me in that situation. Waiting patiently for tickets for Donegal's game on Sunday, but why is everyone saying it won't be a sellout because of the rally happening? Well, it's not. I don't know. I suppose it's about how big a fan you are. I mean, like if you went to Roscommon from Donegal at the weekend, you know, you're a big fan. It was a very early start. You know you were facing tough travel conditions, and as a result, you know that probably you'd have been standing in Hyde Park for quite some time. You know, not everyone has that level of commitment. So fair play to Donegal turning up in such big numbers. In terms of, it's probably maybe avoidance. Maybe people might try and avoid it or not travel. Say, for instance, on Sunday, if you are on, I don't want to give specific townlands because I'm not quite sure, but so there's certainly parts of Downings anyway, and maybe parts of Fanad, I'm not quite sure, that you can't sort of get out of where you're living after 10:30 or 11. So you'd have to be on the road very early to make it to Ballybofey for a 4 o'clock throw-in, if that makes sense. So there's maybe factors like that. The subject of crests and school uniforms was on Highland Radio 20 years ago. Progress? What progress? I referenced that. We've been talking about it forever. But maybe things might change, he said. I'm concerned that the opt-out register for organ donations is not available yet, despite the register is now live today. Well, it's from 10 o'clock, so it'll be available then for you. A couple of you are commenting on that. I have concerns about organ harvesting and feel this automatic organ donation today is a step too far. But what's organ harvesting? You know, they're not cutting them out of everybody and freezing them. I know where you're coming from. But that terminology is designed to make people really concerned about the whole thing. We can talk about it, though. Very happy to have your views on it. Again, it's something that I'm not really quite sure about. Back with more after the news and obituary notes. This, in fact, will have the latest appeals and information from Garda Síochána.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
If you're looking to transform your home this summer, it's time to visit Foy's in Ballybuffet or Letterkenny, the Northwest's largest stockist of interior and exterior paint. Perfect for every project, big or small. Also at Foy's, you'll find the biggest selection of curtains, blinds, wallpapers and stunning fabrics with clearance discounts waiting to be snapped up. So don't miss out. Put a visit to Foy's on your list this June. See foys.ie.
Make real summer savings at Super Value. Like Super Value fresh meat range such as burgers, 3 for €10. Fresh fruit and veg, 79 cents each. Confectionery selected ranges such as Cadbury and Pringles, 3 for €5. And scan your Real Rewards card or app and get Cushell 6-roll 50% longer toilet tissue, only €5. Make real summer savings at Super Value.
Sometimes you have to simply enhance what you have. Like the new Opel Mokka. With a new infotainment system, dash and interior. It's had a little work done. After all, it's what's on the inside that counts. As for the outside, why mess with perfection? The new Opel Mokka. It's a head-turner. Available in petrol, hybrid and electric. Find out more at Manor Motors Opel. See manormotors.ie for details.
You can do it, just a little bit further.
Gillian pushes people to get fit.
Don't worry, we're nearly there.
She also pulls them to safety in an emergency. It takes commitment and courage to be a retained firefighter, but the impact you make will last a lifetime. Discover how you could become a retained firefighter in your community. Visit fireireland.ie. A message from the Government of Ireland.
Is your couch older than your Spotify playlist? Is your dining table wobblier than your uncle at a wedding? If so, it's time for an upgrade at Grove Furnishings, Kiltoy Road, Letterkenny, the largest furniture store in the Northwest. From stylish sofas to elegant beds, from floor covering to occasional pieces, we've got you covered. And we offer free delivery within 80 kilometres. Grove Furnishings. Seriously good furniture.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. A delegation of doctors from Donegal will meet with Health Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeill in Dublin this evening. The Minister will also have discussions with Donegal political representatives and the HSE's regional manager, Tony Canavan. The doctors will present the Minister with a document outlining why they believe a surgical hub should be located at Letterkenny University Hospital. Mr Canavan is recommending Sligo as a sole location. With more, here's Michaela Clark.
The document which doctors will present to the Minister this evening argues that by any reasonable and objective measure, Letterkenny University Hospital stands out as the only logical evidence-based location for a surgical hub. They say when measured against the recommendations regarding population, geography, clinical activity and need, Letterkenny is the obvious choice. In terms of funding, they say Letterkenny receives far less than other hospitals for doing the same amount of procedures. In terms of the surgical workforce, the document points out that in 2010, more procedures were being carried out in Letterkenny, with 6 permanent surgeons operating 2 days a week, compared to the situation now with 0.5 to 1 operating day a week and 3 permanent surgeons.
US President Donald Trump says he's working on something much bigger than a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. The US President has left the G7 summit early over the conflict, which is entering its 5th day. He told residents in Tehran to evacuate immediately. More than 200 Iranians have been killed since Friday, while at least 24 people have been killed in Israel. The Taoiseach is attending an emergency meeting of European foreign affairs leaders this morning to discuss the escalating situation. Simon Harris says the government's priority is protecting Irish citizens in the region.
We now have around 30 people registered in Iran as Irish citizens. Many of them are long-term residents in Iran. And in Israel we have around 200 people on our citizens register there. In both Tehran and Tel Aviv, a number of people, a relatively small number, have indicated that should evacuation options become available, they'd like to be considered to avail of them.
People Before Profit TD Paul Murphy arrives back in Dublin today after being released from police custody in Egypt last night. He was detained for a second time yesterday after going to a police station in Cairo to ask for his phone to be returned. He and a group of participants who travelled to Egypt to take part in a global march for Gaza are now on a flight home. Local radio is one of the most trusted sources of news in Ireland. The latest digital news report published by Comisiún na Man shows 56% of people in the country are extremely or very interested in news. That's a higher rate than in the UK, US and Europe. There's also a higher level of trust in news here, with 72% saying local radio and RTE are their most trusted brands, followed by local newspapers at 71%. Schools are being urged to make sure there's competition among uniform suppliers ahead of the new term. The Competition and Consumer Protection Commission says the rules about crested items often cost parents much more, while 3/4 of schools surveyed have at least one uniform item that must be bought in a recommended retailer. The Watchdog's Director of Communications, Grania Griffin, says retailers should compete for back-to-school business.
The cost differences are huge. I mean, we heard from a parent last week who was buying a branded PE kit, like a top and shorts. It was at that cost of €80, and they were telling us that they could get the equivalent items on the high street for 20. I mean, it's a really big difference in cost, and it's worse in secondary schools because you see way more crested items.
Weather forecast: cloudy this morning with patchy rain and drizzle, clearing away, the cloud breaking up later with plenty of sunshine and dry weather following. Top temperatures this afternoon of 16 to 19 degrees Celsius in westerly breezes. Plenty of clear spells, dry weather and late sunshine this evening. A touch more cloud moving in as we head toward nightfall with winds falling light. Lowest overnight temperatures 9 to 11. Generally dry but a little cloudy tomorrow morning with some hazy sunshine. More cloud moving in later on Wednesday with some patchy drizzle developing. Top temperatures tomorrow 17 to 20 degrees Celsius in light winds. And that's Highland Radio News. Check all the day's news on our website, highlandradio.com. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. But for now, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Tuesday morning, the 17th of June. The death has occurred of Rosanna McAleer, née Quinn, 271 Ard McCarran, Ballybofey, reposing at her late residence today from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and again tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Funeral from there on Thursday morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass in the Church of Mary Immaculate, Stranorlar at 11 o'clock. Interment in St Mary's Churchyard, Sesha O'Neill. The Requiem Mass will be streamed via the parish webcam. Donations in lieu of flowers please directly to the Donegal Hospice or care of any family member. Family time please on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Sean Grant, Moneymore, Newton Cunningham. Sean's remains will repose at his late residence tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. with rosary at 9. Funeral at 11 on Thursday morning in All Saints Church, Newton Cunningham. It can be viewed live on churchservices.tv, followed by interment in St Columba's Church Cemetery, Dromahal. Family time please on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu if desired, to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Conall Gillespie, Carrowkeel, Quigley's Point. Connell's remains will repose at Kelly's Funeral Home, Station Road, Carndonagh from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock this evening and again from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock tomorrow. Removal from there on Thursday morning at 10:20, going to St Columba's Church, Drung for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. The Mass can be viewed on MCN Media. The death has occurred of Desmond Joseph Lear, 3A Elliott Place, Enniskillen, County Fermanagh. Desmond's remains will repose at 34 Cashlon Court, Castlefin, Donegal from 4 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral from there at 10:30 on Thursday morning to St Mary's Church, Castlefin for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Wake strictly private please to family and close friends. The Mass can be streamed live via the parish website. The death has taken place of Elizabeth Lily Curlin, née Crossham, 25 Lower Ballyarton Road, Claudy, County Derry. Leaving McLaughlin's funeral home this afternoon at 3 o'clock to repose at her late residence. The wake at the family home is for extended family, friends and neighbours please. Funeral from there on Thursday morning at 10:20 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Claudy, followed by interment in the adjoining graveyard. The Requiem Mass can be viewed on mcn.live. The death has occurred of Terry Tully, née O'Boyle, St Catherine's Road, Killybegs, reposing in McBrearty's funeral home today from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Removal tomorrow morning to St Mary of the Visitation Church, Killybegs, for 11 o'clock funeral mass, with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. The funeral mass will be streamed on mcn.live. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Irish Cancer Society, care of any family member or McBrearty Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of William James Billy Kilpatrick, Habbistown, Rafo. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 for 1 o'clock service of Thanksgiving in Rafo Presbyterian Church, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. The house is strictly private, please, today and before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Donegal Hospice and Rafo Presbyterian Church, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Kathleen McCafferty, née McCallion, Old Town, Letterkenny, reposing at her late residence from 11 o'clock this morning until after the Rosary this evening. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 11 in St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, with burial afterwards in Conwell Cemetery. The funeral Mass can be viewed on the parish webcam. Family time, please, before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of Con MacDade, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of John McCauley, 12 Glen Road, Strabane. Funeral leaving his home tomorrow at 9:25 for Requiem Mass in Sacred Heart Church, Derry Road, Strabane at 10 o'clock. Cremation afterwards in Lakelands Crematorium. Family time, please, from 10 o'clock tonight. The Requiem Mass can be viewed via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Johnny McCafferty Sr., the Lagoon, Termon. Johnny's remains will repose at his late residence in Drumbrick, Termon, from 12 noon today until 10 p.m. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 12 noon in St Columbus Church, Termon, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Galway Hospice. And the death has occurred of Kathleen McClay, Bunamain, Bridgend. Kathleen's remains are reposing at her home with family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Removal from there tomorrow afternoon at 1:15, going to St Peter's Church of Ireland, 60 Coolmore Road, Londonderry, for funeral service at 2 o'clock, followed by interment in St Mary's Church of Ireland Graveyard, Fawn. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Buncrana Community Hospital Patients Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Sean Murphy, Funeral Director. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Highland Radio. Are you calling me a liar?
No, that's not.
I'm telling you, this isn't what I ordered. Don't give me that look, you little.
Work-related violence and aggression, it's not just part of the job. As an employer, it's your responsibility to protect workers. For guidance and to learn more about your duties, visit hsa.ie.
All right, you're welcome back to the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio. Good to have you on board. Garda Grania is going to be joining us a little bit later on. And also after the next ad break, actually. But also, we'll have a member of An Garda Síochána that specialises in modified cars. Now, we are heading in towards rally weekend, and there's going to be a lot of Gardaí about. There's just no doubt about that. And they are also going to be looking at cars that have been illegally modified. So what is an illegal modification? Maybe you've got a question, actually, in relation to modded cars that it might be useful for me to get an answer for you. I think I'll be able to pick up on most of it, though, just through general chit-chat, but I'd be very interested if you've any questions, and I can put them to our guest. A caller says, I need an NCT in August. This morning I thought I'd apply to make sure I had it in time. The first available date for anywhere in Donegal is the 25th of September. What happens if I'm pulled by Gardaí in the meantime? Surely this is a huge failure on behalf of the RSA. Now, when you do book it online anyway, you can join a priority list if your date is outside when your NCT expires. I will say, though, and this is not an urban myth because I've availed of it of a number of occasions, and I don't know why, because this also maybe could talk to a failure by the RSA. If you go on to the RSA website after 12, which I did, in fact, I have an NCT this afternoon, after 12 o'clock. So I'll give you an example. So say it was today that I applied for the NCT, and it wasn't, it was last week, right? So there were, so say it was this week when I went on at 6 o'clock in the morning because I woke up and I thought of booking NCT. Now remember, the day previously I tried and I was in the same boat. September was the nearest date possible. But in Letterkenny, because where it suited me, there were about 3 or 4 dates for this week, pretending I'm booking it yesterday. And there were times on every single day the following week. Every single day there were times, morning, afternoon and evening. So I'm not really quite sure how it works. I'm not sure if they're being block booked by car companies. I haven't a clue what's going on, right? But if you go on after 12 o'clock, for some reason, a whole plethora of dates become available to you, and often within the next day or two. And it's not like driving test cancellations where they're updated immediately. They do seem to be updated at midnight. So for your own peace of mind, and perhaps even an extended NCT or whatever, I don't know how it works, certainly just go on after 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock is when I went on. I went on at 6, sorry. You definitely will get a date before September, and you'll probably get a date this week, not that you need it. Also, there is a priority thing that you can click that normally means that they'll ensure that you get a date well before the expiration of your NCT. It's too convoluted. It feels like you need to be in the know, which you shouldn't. But rest assured, you can get an NCT before your NCT is due using the measures I've just outlined there. Interesting document which I've been handed here in relation to senior Letterkenny University Hospital delegation. They're meeting on the surgical hub with Minister Carol McNeill today. My understanding, is it correct, Caroline, that they're not able to make a presentation, that they're having a meeting, but there's no PowerPoint presentation? I presume this document will be handed to her. It's incredibly detailed. We've covered much of what's in this document in the past. I'll post it. We'll post it on our socials, perhaps, because it has been leaked to us, so why not? And the agenda is 1, review of the business case for the surgical hub Sligo, 2, present a case why a surgical hub should be placed in Letterkenny Hospital. I'm hoping to go through this in more detail with someone in the know. But anyway, the opening remarks would have been, by any reasonable and objective measure, LUH stands out as the only logical evidence-based preferred location for a surgical hub. The evidence, population, geography, clinical activity and need, funding, surgical workforce, surgery at imminent risk of collapse. I'll say that again, surgery at imminent risk of collapse. And the RCSI Surgical Hub Clinical Guidance for 23 points out that hubs should be situated on sites that support future geographic alignment to ensure a population-based allocation and equitable access to care in every region. That is from the Surgical Hub's Clinical Guidance itself. In terms of population, I can't go through this all now, but in terms of population, in 2022, our population, 167,000. In Sligo, 70,000. So that blows that out of the water, doesn't it? So if you look at the health areas, so to speak, so in Sligo, you do have Sligo, Leitrim, South Donegal, West Cavan. They're still at 114,000. We're at 159,000. So by far and away. Also, we're the most deprived region in Ireland. That's by the government's own statistics. We're also 120 kilometres on average. It's the preferred on geography ground because coverage of 120 kilometres from hubs means that there's a very strong argument for it to be located here. We win on clinical activity grounds, in terms of births as well. But on funding grounds, just to let you know here briefly, and I won't delay on this too long, but in 2025, Letterkenny University Hospital, 250 million, compared to Letterkenny University Hospital, 249 million, compared to Sligo University Hospital, 250 million. But you break that down per patient then, and the funding for Letterkenny University Hospital cost per 100,000 patients, 6 11,900,000 for Letterkenny, 11,300,000 for Sligo. And even in Mayo, which is comparable in many levels, 7,100,000 euro spend per 100,000 patients. A full 200,000 more than Letterkenny. But compared to Sligo, we're at 6,900,000. Sligo 11,300,000, and on it goes. In terms of Model 3 hospitals, the Mercy Hospital, 15 million per 100,000 patients. Again, Letterkenny, 6,900. That's you, by the way. That's the spend on you, just to be very, very clear. And on it goes. There's a quote here. Unless we actively encourage recruitment, the Model 3 network will be challenged in service delivery in the near future. A service delivery crisis is inevitable unless Model 3 hospital posts are made more attractive. That is a direct quote here. Here's a letter from the LUH Clinical Director to John Hennessy, who's the Regional Director of Operations, HSE West. A direct quote. Surgical services in Letterkenny are unsustainable and will fail catastrophically within 3 to 5 years if affirmative action is not taken. The failure mechanism will consist of inability to recruit NCHDs and consultants of a standard consistent with higher quality care. So that's from the LUH Clinical Director to the Regional Director of Operations. So I think that's really quite significant. The Regional Director of Operations, Mr. John Hennessy. LUH had a powerful Department of Surgery, 2010, 2 days operational a week. That was with 6 permanent surgeons. Now, 2025, between half a day and a day with 3 permanent surgeries. That's a huge drop of 50% or more in just 15 years, which is really, really quite regrettable. And also, just in terms of main theatre lists, let's just go with Mr. Bodner. On the 24th of April, hospital full, no beds, a full cancellation, I believe that reads. The 10th of the 4th, no beds. The 27th of March, there was one day on the 27th of March where a full list of operations were performed. On the 25th of March, the 18th of March, the 13th of March, the half the list went ahead. I believe that stays. That's what that's relating to. 28th of January, no beds. 27th of January, no beds. The 16th of January, half capacity, just time for critical cases was allowed as per management. And on the 2nd of January, full cancellation due to the winter bug as per management. And on it goes. We've got fewer consultants per 100,000 patients compared to University Hospital Limerick, Sligo, Cork, Tullamore, Connolly, Mercy, Waterford, Galway, Tala, St. Vincent's, Beaumont, Mater, St. James. All of those hospitals have more consultants per 1,000 patients than us. And as I say, on it goes. And unfortunately, I don't believe that's going to be able to be presented to the Health Minister. I don't believe she has time or the inclination. I'm not really quite sure. But I hope she gets that documentation, because you talk about decisions need to be evidence-based. Well, there's the evidence. It couldn't be any more stark. And the warnings couldn't be any more stark either. And just to be very, very clear, what this is about your care. So whether it's the care that you are scheduled to have, will that operation go ahead? If you get sick, if you become pregnant, will all of these services be there into the future? As you age, what kind of care will you get? These professional medics, and in fairness, the politicians, they're fighting to try and ensure that you get the care that you deserve, at least equal to everywhere else. At the moment, you're far, far, far behind, and that's what this is all about. So if you're not in the hospital now, fantastic. If you're feeling well now, fantastic. But please note that this is about the level of care that you may get or are likely to get into the future. Will you have a Model 3 hospital? Will it be downgraded to a regional hospital? Will there be a service collapse? Unless there is action from the HSE, that is what the medical professionals are warning us of. And that affects you in the GP's clinic as well too, even if you're not going to the hospital right now. Right, so again, we'll talk about that more into the future, but I just want to drive home the importance of this, and this is why there seems to be unity across medicine in Donegal and across the political sphere as well, because it is really that critical.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday, the 17th of June. You're playing on the brown sheet for the daily prize of €1,800. The reference number is S2. It's game number 25. The numbers are 6, 44, 52, 38, 22, 27, 72, 49, 8, and finally 81. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Mercedes-Benz and Smart present the Clearance Collection. Discover luxury for less with our collection of 251 registered Mercedes-Benz and Smart EVs. All with up to 25% off and less than 1,000 kilometres. Blink and you'll miss it. The Clearance Collection for 4 days only. June the 19th to the 22nd at Mercedes-Benz and Smart dealerships nationwide. 251 registered with delivery mileage only. Offers available on selected models while stocks last.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up, fresh colour for your walls, or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
Transform your living room with a luxurious, bespoke feature wall from Sprat Fireplaces, Newmills, Letterkenny. Our complete installations include built-in storage, electric fires, floating shelves, and stunning finishes in stone, porcelain, or marble. Each feature wall is designed and built in-house by our expert carpentry and stone masonry teams. No fuss, just flawless feature walls. Call 074 91 24144 or visit spratfireplaces.ie. Sprat Fireplaces, experts in heating, design, and detail.
The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today. The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, monitoring homes and businesses in the northwest for intruder, fire, panic and medical signals. Call Sheridan Security on 91 26025.
Yes, indeed. It is the 17th of June. I may have said July earlier, but it's 25 past 10. Community Garda information time. And also, of course, public information time, because a little later on, we're going to be joined by, and in fact, we're joined now by Garda Damien Mulkern's road traffic related discussion ahead of the rally. And we're going to be talking about modded cars and what have you, Damien. So thank you so much for coming up and joining us.
You're very welcome, Greg.
My focus for now, though, is going to be Garda Gráinne Doherty. Hi, Gráinne. Great to have you back up again. And we'll kick off with appeals and info. And the first relates to an RTC in Buncrana.
Yes, Garda are appealing for witnesses to a collision involving a vehicle and 2 pedestrians. This occurred at Main Street, Buncrana, on Tuesday the 10th of June, shortly after 11:50am. The driver and the male and female pedestrian, they were all taken to Letterkenny University Hospital to receive medical treatment. The driver and the male pedestrian didn't suffer any life-threatening injuries. The female pedestrian, however, remains in hospital. She suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries. We're appealing to anybody who may have witnessed this collision to contact Garda in Buncrana on 9320540. And again, if anybody travelled in that area with a dash cam on June 10th between 11:45am and midday, at Main Street, Buncrana, we're asking them, as always, to make that footage available to us.
OK, now road traffic collision being investigated in Derrybeg.
Yes, this collision involved one vehicle. It occurred in the R257 at Stramartin, Derrybeg, on Thursday the 12th of June at approximately 11:18am. So the vehicle involved was travelling from Lunya towards Derrybeg. It left the road and entered a field. The driver and the passenger were taken to Letterkenny University Hospital to receive medical treatment. And thankfully their injuries are believed to be non-life-threatening in nature. We'd like to hear from anyone who may have witnessed this collision, or again, as always, with all of our appeals, we're interested in dashcam footage. So if anyone was in that area around that time with a dashcam, we're asking them to make that footage available to us. And anybody with any information in relation to this incident should contact Garda in Ballyshannon on 071 985 8530.
Okay, investigations into a daytime assault at Long Lane in Letterkenny.
Yes, so we're investigating an alleged assault that occurred in the Long Lane area of Letterkenny on Wednesday, the 11th of June, in and around 3:10 p.m. A man was at that location when a car pulled in alongside him, and 3 males got out of this car and they proceeded to assault him. He sustained injuries, again, thankfully, none of which are believed to be life-threatening in nature. We're appealing to road users who might have been in that area with a dash cam to make that footage available to us. And again, as you say, it was daytime hours, the middle of the day, so we're very hopeful someone might be able to assist with dash cam footage. So if anybody witnessed this incident either, we're asking them to contact Letterkenny Garda Station on 9167100, or as with all of our appeals today, the Garda Confidential line can be reached on 1800 666 111.
All right, let's go to the investigation now into burglary in Carndonagh.
Yes, this burglary occurred at a building site in the area of Barrack Hill, Carndonagh, in the early hours of Wednesday, the 11th of June, between 3:20am and 3:35am. Damage was caused to the locked entrance gate to gain entry to the site. 2 men then entered the site and 1 man remained in a silver car outside. They left again without causing any further damage because the motion activated light came on the site. Nothing was stolen, so we're appealing to anybody who may have travelled in the area of Barrack Hill or any of the surrounding areas with a dash cam between the hours of 3am and 4am to please make that footage available to Gardaí. Buncrana Gardaí may be contacted on 932-0540 with any relevant information.
And the advantage there of having security to discourage, potentially, discourage, very useful.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah,
Right,
it
okay.
would appear that this, and I think it's quite a bright light lit the whole site.
Yeah.
So it would appear
And
that
good info, yeah.
that-
Okay, just goes to show. That's why we talk about it. Now, theft of sheep in Kerry-Keel.
Yes, we're investigating this report of theft of sheep from the area of Garrymore, Kerry-Keel, between Sunday the 15th of June at 8pm and Monday the 16th at 8am. 2 sheep. They're purebred Dutch spotted ewe lambs and they're approximately 6 months old. They were stolen from a garden at the front of a vacant property between those times. So we're appealing to anybody who might have noticed any suspicious activity in that area between those times to get in touch with us, or if anybody can assist with any relevant information, we're asking them to get in touch with Gardaí in Milford on 9153060. We have pictures of the stolen animals and we'll post them to our Facebook page later today, and I believe they're here also.
Yeah, those
yourselves,
watching it
so
are seeing the pictures right now. Very distinctive, of course. You know, you have
Yeah.
a standard view of what a sheep might look at. They're very distinctive
They are
wool on
markings
them.
and that, yeah.
Brown and white and what have you. Pretty things. Okay, they will be easily spotted, you would hope. Right, ghost fires. You know, whilst we did have a bit of a deluge, the ground was incredibly dry. And we've got, drier, warmer weather on the way. Great if you're waiting to bring home the turf, but a nightmare potentially for the threat of ghost fires.
Yeah, and apparently the warm weather's on. I heard Lee asking this morning, where is the sun we've been promised? I think we're all looking at the sky.
But he's
it's
quite youthful, I would say about 6 in his mind sometimes, in that the sun has to be out for it to be warm.
Oh no, poor Lee.
You know?
We'll get back to the gorse fires. Poor Lee. I'll get myself in trouble here. But yeah, no, look, the warm weather's promised, and of course rally weekend always appears. The weather always seems to pick up for rally weekend. So the warm weather's on the horizon, and we just wish to issue a warning in relation to gorse fires. There have been quite a few gorse fires this year to date, and it's very early in the summer yet. So we're just reminding and urging landowners and members of the public not to engage in activities that could cause these wildfires. And under the Wildlife Acts, it is an offence to cut, grub, burn or destroy any vegetation growing in land not then cultivated between March 1st and August 31st. So landowners and members of the public are urged to be vigilant, report any uncontrolled or unattended fires immediately to the fire service on 999 or 112.
How quickly they can take hold and spread, especially like, say, for instance, we've got warmer weather coming this week, but there's still a stiff breeze, which is just the perfect storm. So whether someone's purposefully lighting stuff on their land, which you've just pointed out, is problematic, or a bit of backyard burning or discarding a cigarette or
course, yeah,
portable barbecues, they generate so much heat out the bottom, and I think sometimes people don't realise that.
Yeah.
Right, so and obviously there's a threat to land and wildlife and property, but also it's a massive drain on resources, and we're heading into a busy weekend, and there's going to be lots of people out and about. We'll talk about that in a moment. First, we're going to talk about the Garda Youth Awards.
Yes.
So, how close are we to the deadline, and what's the uptake been like so far?
The 2nd of July now the nominations have to be in, so I want to issue a quick reminder this week. So the annual Donegal Garda Youth Awards celebrate outstanding young people between the ages of 13 and 21 from across Donegal. So we, in conjunction with Supermax and the Abbey Hotel, recognise that a lot of work is being done by young people in every community across the county. Awards will be considered for nominated young people who by their presence make their communities a better place to live in. So as we said, the nomination process is open. We're now inviting the public to nominate a young person they know who is committed to making a difference in their community. The deadline for the nominations to be received by us is 12 p.m. on Wednesday, July 2nd. So you can request a nomination form you can request it from any Garda station or go to garda.ie and you can download it from there. If you check our Facebook page, there's regular reminders on our page just of how to obtain the form and how to submit it, so you can get full details on there.
Yeah, so it's any young person in your life, you know who they are, who are, maybe even beyond their age, are helping someone or doing something in the community or have an initiative, and we've spoken to so many of them that would be very valid nominees on this programme, just doing really, really good work and taking an interest in their community or their family or an older relative or whatever it might be. So don't hesitate. Make sure that they get the credit they deserve, because simply by nominating them, it's a very important recognition. And who is to say that they may not then be shortlisted? Full details now to obtain and submit a nomination, as Granny said, are available on the An Garda Síochána Donegal Facebook page. We do things at the last minute, but you still have how long is it? About 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks.
Right, okay.
And
so you've got about a week and 6 days to think about it.
And
Panic a day.
And it's not too complex a form. It wouldn't take too long to fill out. And as you mentioned before, that it's very important to make people aware as well that every young person that is nominated will receive recognition, whether or not they're an overall winner. They'll all be invited to the awards ceremony, and I'm sure you're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait. And you say that with a smile, but I actually am.
It was a great event last year. It was
a
very enjoyable event.
To be amongst so amazing young people and proud parents too.
Yeah.
That was one thing I loved, or guardians or those around them, just the level of pride to see someone important to them being recognised outside of the home or their direct community. So I couldn't encourage people enough. And as you say, can you imagine someone in your life that I'll just give an example, maybe they've become the go-to person for granddad who's getting older or something, for them to get a recognition, even just for being nominated, really, really important. It might become a very valuable thing that they hold on to. Right, okay, what a nightmare. Donegal International Rally and Donegal versus Louth, all on over the weekend and on Sunday. It's a police operation. There's obviously extra resources and what have you for the rally, but a lot to manage then for the Donegal v Louth match, given the geography of the county and where the rally is and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Grania, I'll leave it to you to sort.
To explain, to summarise the full weekend. It's going to be a hectic weekend, for everybody, but it's good too. I suppose it's good to see the county bustling,
well,
bustling
that's
with
it.
people.
Everyone's coming with money in their pockets.
Exactly, yeah. So we will be out in force this rally, as always, this rally weekend. Gardaí will be applying a zero tolerance approach in relation to antisocial behaviour, dangerous driving, drink and drug driving, and bad driver behaviour in general. We're urging everyone to keep the race in its place. Rally sport is a high-speed sport. It takes place in a controlled environment with all of the necessary protections in place. Every year, a small minority, they appear to have no interest in the rally. They arrive and they drive in a dangerous manner, and by doing so, they're risking their own lives, they're risking other road users' lives. So if these people value their licence, then they need to leave the rally driving to the competitors, because they will be stopped and they will be prosecuted. And just something very important here, I want to make all drivers aware this weekend, and all the time really, of legislation regarding the dangerous use of vehicles in any place. I know a few people last year were caught out with this. Their cars were seized, so I just want to make people aware this year that under Section 109A of the Road Traffic Act 1961, and Garda Síochána can seize a vehicle which has been used, is being used, or is likely to be used in a dangerous manner in any place, which may be dangerous to people present or likely to be present.
So what are we talking about there? Is that like maybe doing donuts in a car park? Is that
dangerous driving,
okay,
yeah. So if you're caught dangerous driving, your car will be seized by Gardaí, and then in order to get your car back, you then have to apply to the judge of the district court to get your car back. All Gardaí policing the rally this weekend will be aware of this legislation. They are aware of it. we're enforcing a zero tolerance policy in relation to the dangerous use of vehicles. And I just happen to remember from last year that there was a few drivers caught out with us on the Friday, the Saturday. Their vehicle was seized. They were on foot for the weekend. And that's it. That's the long and short of it. It's Monday until they can go then and apply to the judge to get their car back. So they spent rally weekend on foot because of their foolish decisions.
But the guards can't be everywhere. And the public might say, right, this is happening next to me. I'm 3 kilometres outside Letterkenny and not a guard to be seen, because obviously you can't patrol everywhere, right? Can that be reported, and can they expect, a response?
Of course, yeah. So there is a traffic watch online for them, but you can contact your local station. Now, if you believe that it's a highly dangerous, you can always contact 999 or 112 if it's an emergency. But contact any of our 24-hour stations here, either, Letterkenny, Ballyshannon, Buncrana and Milford. And we are advising members of the public, if anybody observes a vehicle and they believe it's been driven in a dangerous manner over the course of the weekend, contact us. Try your best to get the registration number and the direction of travel. Make us aware, report it to us immediately, and we will act.
And drink and drug driving too, and particularly, maybe people can and hopefully should be extra cautious with sort of, how long it takes for your body to relieve itself of alcohol. It's very different. My reading is of cannabis use or even vaping, CBD or whatever it might be. We're catching people every week here with drugs in their system.
Yeah, and I think on Sunday past, just there, we had it on Facebook, even within the space of 4 hours, they had 3 people arrested in Buncrana and around Buncrana town for the offence of drug driving. And, unfortunately, that seems to be on the rise. And I know last year at the rally, quite a few young people actually approached me the morning after, maybe the Sunday morning or the Saturday morning, and they wanted to know, could we breathalyse them or could we check them in any way? But you can buy kits, in the chemist to check. And look, yourself, in yourself if you're feeling okay.
I think if you have to ask that question, you're either very, 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 very cautious or it's dodgy.
Yeah, well, if you have to ask that question, I think the advice is wait, because within yourself that you're not right to drive,
Yeah, and I think it's very important. You've already made the distinction, but to reaffirm it, in that when we talk about the Donegal International Rally, the majority of people are up here to follow the rally. They're out in their stages, and they're loving it. Unfortunately, we attract a group of individuals, and they travel all around the country because they love their cars, right? That will not see so much as a stage of the rally.
Yeah.
And the clinger-ons, and it's unfortunate for the rally because they've got no control over that. But your message to them very clearly is keep the race in its place, and Garda will be. There's extra resources. Let's just put it like that. There
will be a lot of extra resources this weekend.
Unmarked cars.
Manpower, unmarked cars, bikes. You name it. It will be there, as it has been with other years, and it's been highly successful. I think the extra bodies on the street and the extra high-vis jackets on the street, and unfortunately, every year, look, it attracts a small number of people, and their behaviour leaves a lot to be desired. So any type of disruptive or antisocial behaviour, just getting off the roads for a second, disruptive or antisocial behaviour, that won't be tolerated either. It's highly unfair to the people in the local communities, We're asking parents as well to speak to it's a lot of young people come, they don't attend the rally stages, they come into town and they stay about town for the weekend. So if anybody has a young person intending and travelling to the rally this weekend, we're asking them to speak to them about road safety. Like, we talk about it often and we can't stress the importance of it enough, but we know you can't put an old head on young shoulders. They're easily influenced and they tend to take risks. They show off to their friends. So if you have a young person who's travelling here this weekend, talk to them about the dangers of not wearing a seatbelt, about speeding, driving while under the influence, driving dangerously, or even getting into a car with someone else who might be, prone to driving dangerously or driving while under the influence, the dangers involved with that. A number of road closures, temporary road closures, just for the local community as well, and people intending to travel through Letterkenny. There's a number of road closures, and they are posted to the Donegal County Council website, their Facebook page. They're also on our own Garda Síochána Donegal Facebook page this weekend. So if anybody is intending to make a trip through Letterkenny this weekend, maybe just check those road closures out in advance.
Look at the Glenties option if that suits as well.
Yeah,
it depends where you are. So would it be worthwhile, do you think, going through the specific advice? You've done that already, haven't you?
Yeah.
But it's some of it's quite local, isn't it? Depending where the rally is and all that kind of stuff. But it's all up on the county council.
Well, the local road closures within the town and that, but I know the road closures for the stage and that'll be posted then to the Donegal International Rally, their own Facebook page, for the stages themselves, the local road closures to the stages. And look, I don't want to sound all doom and gloom. The rally's a great event. It's a family event. It's a fun event every year. It brings so many positives to the county. And as we said earlier, it's great to see the county bustling, with business, people coming into the county and tourists and visitors. And we want to emphasise it is only a very, very small minority of the massive crowd who attend every year who end up getting in bother because of their poor behaviour on and off the roads. So Donegal, its towns and villages have so much to offer, and they're all very much open for business this weekend. As I said earlier, we'll have extra resources. You will see guards, on the streets, on their bicycles, on motorbikes, out in the cars. And we're hoping that everybody who comes up this weekend has a lovely trip. They have a memorable trip, but most of all, that they stay safe. You will see us in the streets, and we do say to people as well, we're there also to help. We're there to have the crack and have a bit of banter with them. We're not there to come down on them like a ton of bricks. Every year they come up chatting, and I enjoy the crack, and I'm sure the rest of the guards enjoy the crack and the banter with them in the street. So if anybody needs our advice, needs a bit of help, come over to us, approach us, on the street and have a chat with us. We're not there to spoil the fun.
No.
We're there to keep people safe and also to engage with them in a positive way over rally weekend. Yeah.
And look, lots of people not from the area to look after yourself when you're out socialising as well, and stay in groups and watch you drink if you leave it down. Just common sense stuff. All right. That's Garda Grania Doherty from the Letterkenny Garda station. We're going to be speaking to Garda Damien Mulcairns about modified cars and just, I suppose, a road traffic related discussion more generally after we take this quick break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
At the Central Statistics Office, we're trusted to gather all sorts of information. So, we count lakes, stakes, and haulage intakes. We count wages, ages, and all of life's stages. We count loans, phones, still living at home. We count euros and cents and housing and rents. We count Mars, electric cars, and the price of a jar. Because this data informs important decisions on everything from economic activity to housing policy to what to call a new baby. And we can't do it without you. CSO, count on us. We count on you.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out shaneconleycars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Hello Sunshine, are you summer ready? Clear vision indoors and sun protection outdoors, whether you're after fashion, function or both. At Louis Walsh, your local family-run opticians, they have a fabulous offer of free stylist sunglasses when you purchase your new glasses from their exclusive range. Call into the team at the Courtyard Shopping Centre, Letterkenny, or call 91 21000 for expert advice on how to keep your eyes healthy this summer. Some terms and conditions apply.
If you're organising an event, you might be surprised by everything BizPrint offer, from photo props, backdrops, banners to tablecloths, pens, keyrings and mugs. Everything to make your event a big success. Call BizPrint on 9177 955 or see bizprint.ie.
Do you have a job vacancy that needs filled fast? Tried everything but still no luck? Let Highland Radio's Job Spot do the work for you. We'll share your vacancies with 70,000 daily listeners in Donegal, Derry and Tyrone every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during prime time. Plus your jobs will be listed on highlandradio.com under our Job Spot section. It's fast, cost effective and reaches the people you need. Contact our advertising team today on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, delivering your message across the Northwest.
Okay, it's an extended Community Garda information this week because we are heading into a very busy week on the roads, and I suppose it's only fair that everybody has as clear information as is possible as what the do's and don'ts are, because as I say, I don't think either Grania or Damien are that interested in, making people's lives a misery. They're just saying these are the laws that we're charged with enforcing, and a lot of them are designed to keep you safe. Garda Damien Mulcairns, you like your cars yourself too, so you're coming from this from a dual perspective.
I do indeed, Greg. I'm my title is I'm a Garda PSV inspector, so I'm a technical vehicle inspector. I'm a qualified mechanic and engineer. And it's my duty to carry out inspections of vehicles involved in serious and fatal road traffic collisions and vehicles that have been excessively modified and breached road traffic regulations. So just for everybody's information,
Can I just ask a question in relation to that? I mean, obviously we can't, I never would talk about specific instances, but sometimes in your work in assessing, what might be the cause of a collision, does it become obvious that, the suspension wasn't performing as it might, or the shocks weren't performing as it might, or the tires didn't have enough grip, or, when you forensically look at it, you do see that as a contributing factor?
I do indeed, Greg. Unfortunately, that's my role. It's to provide answers to the families of people who have been injured and killed in traffic collisions, and present the contributory factors, including the state of the vehicle, the tires, the suspension, the brakes, whether the person was wearing their seatbelt or not. So that's my specific role in Garda Síochána. But it also extends out to, say like this rally weekend, where we will have a lot of modified car enthusiasts coming up, visiting the rally, who will have their cars modified to a certain extent, and which is 100% perfectly all right, as long as they don't breach the regulations and that they're safe to be on the road.
How might you know? Say you lowered your car or made some adjustment to it? How can you determine then if it's compliant? Would that be through an NCT inspection, or do you have to get it separately inspected? Or how does someone know the difference between, what is a legal modification and what might be seen as illegal?
A very good question, Greg. The way to look at it is that all cars are designed to be optimally safe. So when you're changing the features of that vehicle by modifying the vehicle suspension, lowering it down, there is kits that you can get perfectly legal that will do it 100%. But you have to look at the overall picture of the vehicle, that when you're lowering a vehicle, that you're not incurring the tires to foul on the body and things like that, that your brake lines are safe and that they're not kinked in any way, that you're not putting excessive strain on the steering components of the vehicle and things like that.
Yeah, because one change at one other part of the car could test the tolerance of another part of the vehicle, presumably.
Greg, that's it. So you have to, when people modify vehicles, everything might be working perfectly, but wear and tear on that vehicle then as well adds to that. You might get the camber of a wheel is way off and it's rubbing and excessively wearing on the inside, which mightn't be visible to everybody, and which could lead to a blowout on that tire as well. With regards to, I see vehicles that are so low that the rear axles are rubbing off the ground, which again, if you put that into a scenario of the vehicle traveling at speed, the next thing the vehicle is in contact with the surface of the road and can cause destabilization. Exactly.
And also too, cars are designed and they're tested in terms of, weight management, occupancy and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it's an occasion that the Lexus comes out of the garage and you end up with 4 people in it. And, how does that car handle in that situation? Has it been designed for that weight with the modifications that you've made? These are all variables. And unfortunately, we're conversing here on evidence-based stuff. This is not notional sport stuff. This is all factual stuff.
Correct. And when you're lowering the vehicle suspension and things like that, you're throwing off the geometry of the vehicle. As I said, you're introducing possible tire fouling on the bottom of the vehicle. Strain on the components. But there's also other modifications with regards to other things and the things like window tinting on vehicles. Like it's perfectly okay to have tinting on the rear windows of a passenger car, but on the front or driver's side and passenger side window, you can only have a certain amount of the tint on that.
And one must remember, I think certainly with the windscreen, there's already an element of tint from the factory, isn't there?
Correct.
Which factors into the overall.
Exactly. And we have at our disposal mobile devices, tint men, which we can test on vehicles on the side of the road to see if the amount of light coming through that is acceptable or does it breach the regulations. And unfortunately, if it breaches the regulations, you are opening yourself to prosecution if needs be.
And we've seen the TikToks of the on side of the road taking it off.
Exactly, stuff, so and then there's taking the modifications to extreme, which I don't really like to call it modifications, but with regards to people welding the diffs on the rear view on the rear of their vehicles, to allow them to destabilize the rear of the vehicle, to do donuts and things like that. That's all well and good in a track situation, in a controlled environment. where it's controlled and everybody is safe. But when you're doing that to a vehicle that you have out on the road, and you're combining that with lowered suspension and things like that,
It's
you're
a recipe for
you're asking
disaster.
for trouble.
What about exhaust noise?
Exhaust, as you'll hear the cars coming from miles away this
Mhm.
weekend, ultimately with regards to the regulation, your vehicle must have a silencer fitted. So any excessively loud exhaust is unfortunately illegal, and people can be prosecuted with regard to that. I'll also comment on the excessive smoky exhaust now. I think the term at the Reiki cars, that when you press the accelerator, a large puff of dark smoke is coming out through the exhaust. Again, a violation of the regulations and isn't allowed, and people can be prosecuted for that.
What about if you change your insurance or insure a car, you're asked, is there any modifications? And I'm not sure how religiously people actually answer that question or how accurately they answer that question. But I mean, I'm not sure what part of the insurance invalidates, but if you don't talk of modifications, it surely compromises your insurance cover. Whether it's third party, I don't know, but certainly
100%. If you modify your car in any way, you must inform your insurance company of that modification. Otherwise, you'll null and void your insurance policy. Just because you have notified your insurance company that I have modified my vehicle by changing the alloy wheels to a different size or whatnot, that doesn't mean to say that vehicle is safe on the road.
No, I'm just saying it's another factor. I just think
exactly.
You get asked that question, and how many people will go, "Oh yes, well I've lowered it 6 inches and I've changed the wheels and I've welded the diff." You know what I mean?
Correct.
That could invalidate your insurance. What you will see, and I've seen it myself, is some really nice cars coming out of the NCT centre on really quite dodgy wheels. Right, so maybe the timing of the NCT annually is just before the rally. What is the situation there? Your car passes the NCT, but then you change stuff about on it.
Well, that's it. The NCT is just a snapshot of the vehicle that's presented on the day, So to circumvent the regulations and things like that, people might, that have the standard suspension on the vehicle, standard wheels and things like that. The car will successfully pass through the NCT. They'll bring the vehicle
But that's not going to pull the wool over your eyes.
No.
Okay.
We're a long time at this game. And that made myself, and there's another couple of vehicle inspectors coming up from other divisions, and plus we'll have members of the RSA on the road as well, and multi-agency checkpoints, and we will be going through all the vehicles, and we will be finding defects, and some of the defects might be very subtle that people don't realise themselves genuinely haven't think, but when you have your exhaust that you can hear 2 miles away coming, and there's black smoke coming out, and the rear axle of the car is scraping off the ground, the driver of that vehicle is aware of that modification. They're aware that it is dangerous. And as we said, as Grania touched on earlier, Section 109A of the Road Traffic Act, we can seize that vehicle because of its.
And you might have a legal and moral responsibility to do so.
100%.
It's, you see, and what people might not understand is this is not, you taking along 80 and taking it easy. This is what happens if you have to brake. What happens if you have to avoid something? What happens if you know what I mean? Or you have to react to another driver.
Correct.
I think people often think this conversation is about them, and they go, well, I know, and you don't know what's happening around you either. No. It's a little bit like distracted driving.
Nobody
you don't know when
crash.
someone's going to pull out.
Nobody goes out to, people ultimately take huge pride in their cars, and young people especially, and they've spent lots of money on their vehicles and have it looking lovely and shined up, washing it, polishing it before the rally, heading up to Donegal. Nobody goes out to have a collision or get hurt over the weekend. So we have to stack the odds in their favour that they're driving safe, roadworthy vehicles. Like when they're in their vehicles, they've the radio on, the heat on, nice air freshener and things like that. They get comfortable, get complacent, and they're in a place of safety.
And you're also buzzing.
Exactly.
You're buzzing.
And then something happens, and I want to prevent that, because ultimately I don't want to be getting a text message at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning thinking I have to be on the side of the road at 6 to go out to a serious collision. Like, ultimately, this is our job, is to keep people safe on the road. It's like Ron said, keep the race in the pace. Just be cognizant of other people on the road.
It's just the last place you want to be heading
Exactly.
into with an illegally modified car at Donegal this weekend. Let's just put it like that,
100%.
All right, then. Is there anything important that we've missed out on, Damien? I think we covered most there, didn't we?
Seatbelts, I have it underlined here. Again, referring back to the collisions, and just wear your seatbelt. It's
You've seen the difference.
I've seen the difference. Like
vehicles where the seatbelt was worn and not.
Correct. So just weird.
And you don't ever want to see that.
No.
Listeners. Okay, Garda, Damien Mulkern. Stay safe out there too. You know, it's not. You're out on foot patrol an awful lot, or on bikes or in your vehicles, and you know, you're not guaranteed that you're going to get home safe every evening either. You know, there is a risk there, so we appreciate you taking that risk. Garda Grania Doherty, thank you so much. I've never looked at you for so long without you speaking in all my life.
I don't think I've ever said this. Who's
next for the conversation? All right, listen, thanks so much, both of you, Damien and Grania. That was Community Garda information. It's going to be available for you on the podcast, on our socials, and on Garda Síochána socials a little later on. And just stay safe. And we're going to have more sort of pre-rally advice for you on the show on Thursday, I believe. Multi-agency convo. From on Garda Síochána again, fire service, PSNI, the rally organisers, etc., etc. They're all on the one page. Keep the race in its place.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
At Fleming's, we take great pride in having provided quality steel and roofing to all our customers throughout Ireland since 1860.
Tell them about the doors, John.
OK, Mike. We also provide a full quality range of
doors, industrial doors, garage doors, roller doors, insulated doors.
Thanks for that, Mike.
No dramas, mate.
Fleming's, engineering solutions for 150 years. Call us now on 074 91 48 234.
There's any number of new cars out there, but do the numbers add up? With the stylish Peugeot 2008, Fastback 3008 and spacious 5008 electric and hybrid range, they really do. You'll enjoy up to €1,500 trade-in bonus, a free 3-year service plan, a 5-year warranty and a free home charger. Order your 252 Peugeot today at McGinley Motors, your main Peugeot dealer in County Donegal. Offer ends June 30th. Terms and conditions apply.
Monster Bingo every Tuesday night at Mulroy Woods Hotel. €3,300 must go with €1,000 on the last page. Doors open 7:30. Bingo starts at 8:30. That's Monster Bingo this and every Tuesday night at Mulroy Woods Hotel, Milford.
The countdown is on. Just a few months until Highland in the Sun hits Salou. Just picture it. This September, from the 14th to the 21st, you can enjoy 7 nights bed and breakfast plus dinner in the beautiful 4-star Sol Costa Dorada Hotel with airport transfers in Spain included. You will enjoy 7 nights of the music that you love, including Mick Flavin, Claudia Buckley, Johnny Brady, Dominic Kerwin and many, many more. Give yourself an end of summer treat by booking your getaway with Highland Radio and myself, David James. Contact Country Music Tours to book your place today on 074 9119 955. See ya in Salou.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
So, cloud will break up later with plenty of sunshine, dry weather following, highest temperatures of 16 to 19 degrees in westerly breezes.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to noon show on Highland Radio.
And at 11 o'clock we get a news update and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. A delegation of doctors from Donegal will meet with Health Minister Jennifer Carl McNeill in Dublin this evening. The Minister will also have discussions with local political representatives and the HSC's regional manager, Tony Canavan. The doctors will present her with a document outlining why they believe a surgical hub should be located at Letterkenny University Hospital. Mr Canavan is recommending Sligo as a sole location. The doctors argue surgical services may fail catastrophically in Letterkenny if there isn't investment. Garda are appealing for witnesses to 2 collisions in recent days. One involving a vehicle and 2 pedestrians happened at Main Street, Buncrana, shortly before noon on Tuesday last. The other, a single vehicle collision, happened shortly after 11 on Thursday morning last at Stramartin, Derrybeg. Full details on our website, highlandradio.com. The Housing Minister aims to pass emergency legislation on rent pressure zones by the end of the week. Under the plans, everywhere in the country will be considered a rent pressure zone, with the system being implemented in Donegal for the first time. The opposition has criticised the plans as confusing and shambolic. A protest will take place outside the Dáil this evening, calling on the government to tackle the crisis as an opposition motion is debated. Garda are investigating an alleged assault that occurred in the Long Lane area of Letterkenny at approximately 3:10 on Wednesday afternoon last. A car pulled in alongside the victim. 3 males got out of the car and assaulted him. He sustained injuries, none of which are believed to be life-threatening in nature. And Donald Trump says he's working on something much bigger than a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. The US president has left the G7 summit early over the conflict. It's entering its 5th day, and he's told residents in Tehran to evacuate immediately. More than 200 Iranians have been killed since Friday, while at least 24 people have been killed in Israel. The Taoiseach is attending an emergency meeting of European foreign affairs leaders this morning to discuss the escalating situation. They're the headlines. Back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
Donald, thanks very much. We'll be back after the break.
Highland Bakery brings the magic to your morning tea break. Golden scones, still warm, soft in the middle and impossible to resist. Look for the packet with the rabbit on it. Fresh from the oven to your local shop. 25 years of Highland Bakery.
If you know the beauty and skincare product that suits you best, you'll find them at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From moisturisers, cleansers and toners to day creams and night creams, McGee's have the top brands you know and love, like Lancôme, Clarins and La Roche-Posay. Also Elizabeth Arden, Vichy, Nukes and many more. All at McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less.
Fed up with unexpected car bills and just want trouble-free motoring? Then call in to Barry Brown Cars, your main Suzuki dealer, and place your 252 Suzuki order today. With an incredible 10-year warranty and 0% finance. What's not to love? Packed with features and renowned for reliability, Suzuki's unbeatable offers are taking the car market by storm. So call in to Barry Brown Cars in Milford or Donegal Town to secure your 252 Suzuki today and drive away with peace of mind, thanks to that amazing 10-year warranty.
At Specsavers, we've got hearing devices that can stream music or movies. Ones that are good in crowds, rechargeable battery ones that are good at home, ones that are good in the great outdoors, ones that connect to phones, ones that fit in your ear, ones that fit over your ear, ones that fit in wherever you happen to be. We've even got ones in our advanced range that use AI to make speech sound clearer, and they're all available at great Specsavers prices. So book a free hearing check today, because OK Hearing is not OK. Terms and conditions apply.
Brian McCormick Sports. New Hoka trainers in-store and online. Try the new Clifton 10, even softer as you take every stride. New range of colours for men and women. Different widths to suit your feet. Bondi 9. New colours for men and women. Take the Hoka Challenge and see what fits you best. If you're road running or walking, maximise your comfort and support at Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
You never know when barbecue weather will arrive or leave. But with Aldi's 100% Irish Board Bia quality assured barbecue range, you can be ready at a moment's notice. Like lean beef burgers, basted pork loin chops, and marinated chicken fillet kebabs. All for only $2.99 per pack. So go on, get summer started. Good food, good mood from Aldi, while stocks last.
And you're welcome back to the programme. Next conversation is with Fine Gael MEP for Midlands North West, Maria Walsh, and we're talking about the AI generation of inappropriate images of children. Just conscious, if you have young people at home from school or what have you, that maybe I'll leave that up to you. I'm not going to preach. You know yourself what's right and what's wrong. We're here on this for the next 5 minutes or so. Maria Walsh, good morning to you. Long time no speak. See, how are you keeping?
Good morning, and thanks very much for having me on.
Right. So new laws to criminalise AI-generated child sexual abuse material will be voted for on by MEPs this week. Is this a fait accompli? Is there anything that complicates what should be a no-brainer sort of process?
Yeah,
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, a couple of things, and like as you pointed out, you know, for adults or guardians in the room, you know, the next few minutes, we'll discuss various things. I hope, because this is lived experience for many victims and survivors right across the EU. But ultimately, technology is moving at, as we know, a hell of a lot faster than policy. And what this revision does for the child sexual abuse legislation is put it up to speed. So any form of AI generated child sexual abuse material is now against the law. Wild to even say that in 2025, but at the fact of the rise of deep fake, so AI content, artificially content, I should say, created, and that's images, audio files, videos, are out there and are being used to entice younger and younger people into a form of child abuse. And this legislation goes against what this essentially this legislation is trying to eradicate that and stop that. It also removes statute of limitation, which up to this point hasn't been the case. Ireland is separate. We have no statute of limitation for child abuse.
So what does this mean, Maria, in real terms? So the removal of statute of limitations on child sexual abuse carries in all countries on Tuesday. Which will. So what does that mean in real? Is this relating to historic cases, or is it what?
It is. I mean, from in truth to those listening, what we know in Europe, 1 in 5 children is estimated to be a victim of some form of sexual violence. 1 in 5, and at an EU level, again, it's reported that the average age of disclosure of such violence by the victim and survivor is anything around 52 years of age. And about 30% of victims and survivors don't report at all. And then when you look at EU member states, 27 of them and growing, the statute of limitation runs out in some cases. So what this legislation is doing is essentially making sure that there is no set limit, that if you offend, if you violate, if you sadly hurt a child, then at any point you should face the full judicial system and your penalty, and that the victim and survivor knows that at any point that they can make that case. And like I said, Ireland has been leading in that in many ways. But when you look at the round in terms of AI generated content, in the fact that we need to have tougher penalties for all offenders, be it using AI or otherwise, then at the EU level, this is where it's set.
In relation to the laws that criminalise AI-generated child sexual abuse material, I hope the answer to this question is yes. Does this extend to creating images without a victim, so to speak? In other words, where there is no source material. In other words, an image has been created that depicts a child, even though that child doesn't exist as such, because unfortunately AI is advanced that it can do that. So would the creation of an image of child sexual abuse be illegal through this vote?
Correct. And where this legislation, slightly murky waters in terms of does it live under the Digital Services Act, where you bring in big tech, which is our next iteration. This is not to leave out these tech giants that need to be pulling down. It certainly doesn't even need to get online. It should be stopped immediately and tracked and traced so that we can stop the perpetrator from ever hurting an individual. That lives in the Digital Services Act, so we've more work to do there. But within this case, to pick up from your question, where this does stop is we're seeing so many reports growing that an AI generated image or a voice of a child using AI is attracting children into conversations and sexual abuse. And that is what this legislation has been developed.
But in and of itself, that sounds like it's crossing over into grooming and what have you. But in and of itself, as far as you're aware, if someone creates an AI-generated image or video of a child that doesn't exist, is that going to be illegal?
I want to check. I want to make sure I'm correct in that one, because we are doing work parallel to this.
Understood. No, I just think that it really needs to extend to that. Now, secondly, too, unfortunately, I've had contacts from, and I may have referenced this to you before. Apologies, but it's so important. I do think on this child from time to time. 14, 15 years of age. The face, her face. placed on a nude body. The family had seen it. It matched her frame, if you know what I'm on about.
Yeah.
So instantly that's put out onto social media, Snapchat, shared amongst friends, as if this person allowed that picture to be taken of them. That is categorically illegal. It's probably illegal under national law as is, but certainly this extra level of EU protection is there.
Yeah.
That is illegal.
Yeah, so that was what we would consider a deep fake,
Yeah.
and we've spoken about this, and I think of that young girl and her family all the time too, and actually sadly use it as an example where some in the most west periphery of the European Union is had their life destroyed by using AI or by the fact that our legislation and our technology just didn't protect her at a time when she needed that protection. So yes, that does include. At a national level, we have the likes of Coco's Law, which was created in honor of Nicole Coco Fox. Again, that law, which is what we've been working on in the Gender Equality Committee for some time, under the gender violence legislation, Coco's Law minds the victim and survivor in the sense of anybody who distributes that information or that image. Or that video file or audio file, but does not stop the perpetrator. Under gender-based violence legislation, we're working to do that. Under child abuse legislation, in this case that we're talking about, that also protects that child. And ultimately then we need to make sure national member states like our own bring this into law immediately, and other member states do too, because if you can imagine, if I was a 16-year-old girl and I happened to be on Erasmus or visiting another member state, and that happened to me, well, your rights should travel with you regardless of what member state that you experience that legislation. It's like if any tech platform or anywhere you use social media inside the realm of the European Union, which is what we have the toolbox to do, you should be protected and minded.
And this is off the back of the will of the people as well. I mean, you know, we have made inroads. We are making inroads. We continue to do so. But the people of Ireland, it is they demand, don't they, the legislature nationally and on an EU level. 9 out of 10 believe we failed to address the issue of child and sexual abuse in Ireland. That's a live sort of feeling at the moment. So there is, and thankfully, and why shouldn't there be, there is universal support for us to do absolutely everything we can, especially in this changing modern world, to protect our young people. Sorry.
Yeah, well, and all persons. I mean, we could go down the road of deep fakes and the use of fraud cases with our aging community. The sexualization of imagery predominantly hitting young people online is horrendous. And just to remind those, and we've discussed it before, the Europol, so the EU law enforcement agency, estimates that 90% of online content that we will see by next year will be AI generated, so synthetically made. So that means conversations like this are incredibly important, so that we're sharing real information.
But you know what's worrying, Maria? Or not? Listen, I don't want to preach how people live their lives or what they do, but we saw from the Reuters survey recently that in excess of 50% in the United States now of people get their get their news from, 20% get them from Joe Rogan, or they've been exposed to his content, right? But others as well. So the public are choosing, particularly in the United States, to source their news and content themselves, and yet we're seeing this massive acceleration in that content. Like, I can't go to X for news now because it could be the Iranians or the Israelis repurposing video, using videos from Pakistan from 5 years ago. Like, it's got to the point now where I actually can't trust anything on social media. Yet more and more people, particularly in the United States and to a lesser extent here, are sourcing their news from there. Now, people have issues with public service media, local media. I'm not saying we're the bastions of the truth, right? I wouldn't be so naive. But my point is more people are getting their news in a space where more of the content is actually made up.
Yeah,
and that is, I wonder where we go from there.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you shared. And like anything, the closer the news sources to you, i.e. local radio or newspapers, the more truthful in terms of community engagement and conversation and honest critique. I would wholeheartedly agree. I jump on and off X, formerly known as Twitter, because like that, the
I'd say less
algorithm
so
showed me
now.
something different.
Is it
Well,
less
the
so
al-
now, Maria?
Yeah, well,
I
the
find
al-
like I've stopped posting because
Yeah.
I don't think it shares. Well, there's two things that happen. A, you get abuse, or B, it's just lifted by the Nationals and you don't get any credit for it, right? But anyway, but be that as it may. But I just,
we might need another debate on that one.
yeah,
but
no, my
again, I
point
agree
is,
with you. I mean,
it's just that it's not a useful space for, and I love information, and it's just, I don't feel it useful to either consume it from there or to share it from there.
No, I mean, listen, and then as a public representative, I can give you some harrowing stories where the world of online has meshed into the offline world, and it's a horrible space sometimes because sadly our attention span is less than 3 seconds based off one report I read last week. The fact that we are getting so much content at all times of the day in our hands at any course that lifts our mood and decreases our mood is a worrying sign. And we've discussed at many lengths and conversations around the impact mental health has on our citizens. And for me, this has to go in parallel with education. Like critical thinking has slowly disintegrated. And I have colleagues, family and friends living in the States, as I say, sometimes drinks the Kool-Aid that I certainly wouldn't agree with. I have colleagues here in the European Parliament that I sit beside, and we have ongoing conversations about the use of tech, the use of AI, the impact it has on mental health. And some of those wouldn't agree with me and would agree with a stranger and what they say online.
It's funny, isn't it?
In the space of a couple of
and that's
posts.
kind of disarming because you think you know me, you trust me. And one final very point on this, Maria, sorry, and I just thought it was really quite regrettable and I hope we don't see more. There was an incident between Macron and his wife as they were exiting a plane. And I'm not talking to that. I don't know what went on or whatever, but I did note that some of his people tried to spin it that it was created by AI. And I just think, I can understand in the panic why they might do that. But I'll tell you, when the people heading the countries, it's like the misuse of the word bully or abuse. We really have to be careful that people in power do not try and use confusion to aid themselves.
Yeah, and sadly, I mean, listen, I on top of that, I again wholeheartedly agree. On top of that, we have, people in the political world that uses ChatGPT and AI, and it's not for the good of anybody. And we need to be really clear, much like we put legislation in place for influencers or those that get paid to promote brands or services, they're required to post and flag that it is an advert.
Yeah.
So too should that be the case, so that we actually begin to get credible levels of truth versus wish-wash or opinionated journalism. That's
fascinating as always. Delighted to see the care of our children being taken as seriously as it is. It's so important. Thanks very much, Maria Walsh. Have a lovely day. Take care. That's Fine Gael MEP for Midlands North West.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
I have fallen for another.
Summer Sessions is back. Get ready for an unforgettable week of live music in Letterkenny under the massive Big Top tent, featuring, picture this, the Saw Doctors, the Human League, Nick Kershaw, the Undertones, and many more. It's all happening August the 15th to the 24th at the biggest festival in the Northwest. Grab your tickets now at summer-sessions.ie. Follow Summer Sessions Letterkenny on social media. You won't want to miss a beat.
Transform your outdoor space with Sprat Fireplaces. From wood-fired and gas pizza ovens to designer fire pits and barbecues, Sprats offer premium outdoor cooking and heating solutions. Perfect for entertaining, alfresco dining or relaxing fireside. Call 9124144 or visit spratfireplaces.ie to start creating your dream outdoor living space.
We're serving up summer at Dunn Stores and it's barbecue season. Mix and match 3 for €10 across a fantastic range of meat and fish. Try something vibrant like succulent king prawns. Or enjoy Boardbia quality assured meats like piri piri chicken wings or new hot honey pork belly slices and many more. Any 3 for just €10. Plus, save at the till with a 10 off 50 grocery voucher. Dunn Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on ex-grocery shop of €50 or more.
Thank you for attending this meditation session for badgers who forgot to check for gas pipes before digging, without knowing how disruptive it could be, putting others at risk and doing it unknowingly for all their working life. And it could have been avoided had they just checked in the first place. Let's begin.
Always check for gas pipelines before you break ground. Visit gasnetworks.ie/dig for more information.
When I started special care, it was
difficult. That's what they called you. And it was hard
to talk at first, but you showed me
we could break down those barriers together.
And even though I'd been through a lot,
your life could change. So I wanted to say
thank you for letting me be myself.
Thank you for letting us make a difference.
Tuzla is hiring special care workers. Earn up to €67,494 in a life-changing job for them and you. Visit tuzla.ie to apply now.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
It's 11:22. How are you all doing this Tuesday morning? It's the 17th of June and the cloud beginning to break up here over the northwest, which is great. Okay, a listener pointed out earlier on when I mentioned our conversation about school uniforms. Greg, you've been talking about that for 20 years on the programme, and indeed, and probably before that, because every single year there's an awful lot of pressure on parents because certain schools, not all, have very specific outfits that you can only get maybe from one local shop that you have to get embroidered. And then there's the matter maybe of tracksuits and tracksuit bottoms. And there's an awful lot of pressure and the bill can run into hundreds. And then other schools might allow some sort of a more general blazer, which you end up getting in the middle aisle of a shop, for an example, and you can go along and get your crests and iron them on for much less money. There's certainly a competition element to this. So I'm very pleased, actually, I must say, to see the Antitrust Competition and Consumer Protection Commission intervening in this conversation. Craig Whelan, good morning to you. Thanks for your time today.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, obviously you've seen the problem there that I've just identified. I suppose in researching before coming up with a position, what have you found in terms of, access to uniforms, competition, etc.?
Sure. So what we found is that really back to school is a really expensive time for parents. And that is because, as you said, they have to buy uniform items, they have to buy devices. And sometimes what they find is they've very limited choice or maybe no choice at all. So from our research, we found that these back to school costs are very expensive. But what we've also had is contacts from a number of concerned parents across the country who reach out to us to give us examples of, issues that they see when they have to look at back to school items. So we get contacts from parents looking at things like, I have to buy this jumper, I have to go to this retailer, it's 30 minutes drive away from me. The jumper's not that great quality. I see a very similar jumper just without the crest for half the price in, as you said, the middle aisle of the supermarket. So what we're saying to schools is to think about the arrangements that they have in place, both in terms of where those items come from, what retailers parents can buy from, but also what the school uniform policy is in general. Is it really specific with embroidered or, with crests, or is it a bit more generic where it's a plain jumper in a particular colour? And to think about the implications for that, for cost for parents and for choice for parents. Yeah,
one place, just one school here, the back to school, they can only get the uniform from one place. And you're obliged to have a uniform. The zip, €28. And they've sent me their shopping cart here, if you don't mind. The polo shirt, €18. Skinnies, €24. And they're specific to this particular school, which I'm not mentioning at the moment. Leggings, €28. So you tot that up. You can't get it anywhere else, or you're not conforming to school policy. You're up well over €100 there, and that's for one set for the start of the year. And you can't get them anywhere else. What's going on with these deals between individual shops and their schools?
Well, what we found from our research is that in a lot of cases, these arrangements have been in place for years, if not decades. And the school, from what we've seen from our research, hasn't actually done a lot to think about the implications of those. So it's an arrangement that's been in place. It's not reviewed regularly. Parents are kind of, as you see there, paying high prices for uniform items that maybe not are of great, or maybe not of great quality. They use, for a particular year, maybe they move school, maybe they get damaged, they have to go out and buy them again. We've seen reports as well of, for tracksuits that can be bought in a set, the top and the bottom. What if, you get a hole in the trouser legs? Well, suddenly you have to buy a jumper as well that you don't need. So what we're saying to schools is to think about those arrangements that they have in place. So if it is that they have an exclusive supplier, ask, is that really necessary? Are there other retailers in the locality that could sell these? Or is it even better to give greater choice to parents, change the uniform requirements? So, there aren't as many items that have crests. There aren't as many items that are in unique colours that are only available from a particular location, to allow parents to make those decisions for themselves so they can make the best choice for their particular circumstances on cost, quality, convenience. To think about those and to include parents in that discussion as well. To make sure parents understand where this policy has come from. They have the opportunity to input into it, and that they can voice concerns that they have, as you said, if they're faced with large bills, that they can say to school, this is the cost that you're imposing us. We don't understand where this is coming from. And what we've seen from our engagement, the schools are willing to hear those views, are willing to explain why they've arrived at a particular policy, and in cases are willing to change the policy.
I don't think it would be hard, certainly in some of the cases, and it's easy for me to say, to prove some of these practices are anti-competition. Because I could demonstrate that a school that has a specific deal with one shop, there are 3 or 4 shops in that area if they wanted to open up the playing field, so to speak. So why at this point is the Commission only making recommendations? Can you not, have you no role of enforcement in this area?
So what we're trying to achieve at the moment is changes in behaviour, changes in practice. And we've seen that when we engage with schools in the past, that there has been that willingness to engage. We receive complaints from suppliers who are saying, look, I'm open, I can supply this uniform that's only available at this one shop, I can enter that market. So what we're doing is raising this issue to schools. We're building on guidance that we've issued in the past. We never rule out enforcement action. What we're trying to do at the moment is raise this as an issue to allow schools that chance to reflect, as back to school season approaches, as parents are kind of starting to see the equipment lists, that they can have those conversations with schools. As I said, we would never ever rule out enforcement action. But what we're saying is, if there's exclusive arrangements in place, maybe to think about refreshing those, doing a tender process, asking for expressions of interest from retailers who might sell those. If it's possible to sell them multiple retailers, do that. But I think what we want is schools to think about these arrangements first, to engage with parents, but ultimately to keep that the cost implication in mind. That's what we want to see at the moment.
Okay, we'll talk to you in a year or 3 then when we're on about enforcement, because I wouldn't be optimistic. But anyway, listen, I'm just an old pessimistic person anyway. Thanks so much, Craig Whelan, Director of Antitrust, Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Some of your comments coming in here. I've already pointed out one school there whereby your shopping cart fills very, very quickly. Doesn't it? And you're paying a premium for some of these products. Greg, I see school uniforms are in the news this morning. I've always thought school uniforms don't really proper prepare kids for a professional environment. They stifle individuality at a crucial age. Oh, I would be in favour of uniforms. I think there can be an awful lot of pressure to sort of change up outfits and stuff on a day-to-day basis, and kids can be very conscious of that. I think uniforms sort of make everyone the same. But I think they should be affordable, and there should be competition, and you shouldn't have exclusive deals. And I think iron-on crests should be an option. But I would, and it's of no significance what I think. But I think I do like uniforms, and you talk of individuality and that it stifles individuality, but I mean, we have to conform at work for the most, in a lot of workplaces you have to conform anyway. You work in Abbott or something, there's a uniform, and I'm sure it's the same in other factories. And also too, you can have children that come from poorer backgrounds that don't have the same ability to express their individuality. But what do you think? The conversation can go on to whether or not we should have uniforms. It's really having affordable uniforms is where we started. A caller loves school uniforms. When everyone's in the same uniform, you reduce that pressure to keep up with the latest fashion trends or expensive brands. It means kids aren't judged on their clothes, but on who they are and their abilities. That can be a real weight off parents' shoulders too, especially when you think about the cost of branded everyday clothes. I would agree with you on that one, I will say. Hi, I'm just after putting my order into our school today. €20 for a jumper, €15 for a polo shirt. No option to buy elsewhere. Very expensive when you've a few children and need more than one set per child. Of course it is. And you know yourself, you could probably go into a shop not far from where I'm sitting here now and get that jumper for €8 or the polo shirt for £5. You could. So why should you have to pay 35 quid just for the top half for one round? Hi, I just thought I'd let you know when you're discussing school uniforms that our national school, I'm not sure if I can mention it, I'll check with Caroline, They've brought in a new school uniform for September, T-shirt, jumper and tracksuit bottoms. They have the school crest, and the leggings for girls have the X gear on them, which retail at $28. So those were those prices that I mentioned for that particular school. So the school's just introduced it. It's St. Bathans and St. Johnstone. What are they going to do? Shoot me. St. Bathans zip €28, St. Bathans polo shirt 18, and the skinnies 24. So what's that? 32, 42, 52, 62 plus 8, 70 quid for the zip top, the polo shirt, and the skinnies. €70 for one kid, and that's one set. My God, I don't know. I was going to say I'm glad I don't have to worry about that anymore, and then I forgot I'd done it all again. I mean, all to come again. Thank God. Can I play a really special request for a lovely lady, Frances Doherty? She's in Derry and originally from Gweedore, and she's celebrating her 105th birthday today. Born 1919. Isn't that astonishing? Happy birthday, Francis. I do hope you're still listening. I did intend to play this a little earlier, but we here at Highland Radio and everyone across the Northwest want to wish you a very special 105th birthday today. But the request came in from two people who believe you're very special as well, and that is Cahill and Martina. So, Francis, I hope you're listening. Francis Doherty in Derry, but originally from beautiful Gweedore. Happy 105th birthday today. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Who wants to be a quarter billionaire? Tonight's Euro Millions jackpot is the biggest ever. A guaranteed €250 million. The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun. Jackpot capped at €250 million. See lottery.ie for game rules.
Since I switched to Hidden Hearing, I can hear it all. You could save up to €3,000 off invisible hearing aids. Save when you switch to us, upgrade, or save on your very first hearing aids. Pre-phone 1-800-370-000. Switch and save at hiddenhearing.ie. You should go to the hearing experts. T's and C's apply.
Get the job done with the right equipment delivered direct from Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Free delivery on all equipment has been extended to the Finn Valley area, including Ballybuffet, Stranorlar, Castlefin and Killygordon. With great daily and weekend deals available, call Watson Hire, Lisnen in Letterkenny on 9167777. See Facebook or visit watsonhire.ie.
How do you improve on a hero, a legend, a sausage? Wrap it in pastry, of course. Introducing the Super Queen Sausage Roll, our famous succulent sausage and rich butter pastry. A true Irish masterpiece. Roll up at your local Centra and get one with a 12-ounce Franken Honest hot coffee for just €5. Centra, live every day.
The official Donegal International Rally app is now live and ready to download on your App Store. Whether you're a competitor or spectator, this app is your go-to hub for all rally updates, stage info, live results, maps and more. It's a must-have over rally weekend and costs the same as the programme at €19.99. The official Donegal International Rally app in conjunction with Rally Stages. Now available to download from your App Store.
086 60 25 000 is the WhatsApp and text number. Thanks for all your contacts and keeping us so blooming busy. It's really appreciated. Morning, Greg. Do you have any update on the priest that was in Lifford a few months back for allegations of inappropriate contact with minors? It's gone quite quiet. I think there was a court appearance a couple of weeks ago. Those wheels do move really quite slowly because there's a judicial process to follow. You can't. Once someone is charged, you can't discuss the merits of them being charged or not being charged. It's just not the way it is. Unfortunately, some might say. Josephine Kelly, how are you getting on? Are you sitting outside, or are you trying to trick me with your artificial intelligence?
The artificial intelligence is working well today.
I was going to say, I could just about see over out the window here in your direction. It's a little bit more cloudy, but you know what? It's going to look like that this week. Josephine Kelly of Carja and Erigal and the Wild Atlantic Nature Life, they're teaming up. You said teaming up, and it's for an open meeting for whom and about what?
So it's for local farmers and shareholders in commonage in the northwest Donegal, the area between Errigal, Muckish, and over to the coastline of Crockfalla, that area. And kind of the background behind this, the project kind of started off in southwest Mayo, and they were looking at the commonage areas in that vicinity, and they were looking at doing some kind of project that would involve the local farmers. And they approached us then, Cards and Haragla, to see if we would be interested in teaming up with them to look at a project that would span kind of the Mayo and the Galway areas, because the commonages make up quite a lot of the landscape in both areas, and probably the practices and the condition of the habitats in those two areas are very different. So it's a good spread when you have different areas and different farming practices and different methods not being used. So the whole idea of the project is looking at commonage areas and looking at how we can potentially, with the help of the local farmers there, improve the landscape.
Is there incentives to do so? Because as you say, people might be using the commonage for different reasons, and a universal approach obviously would be beneficial. So through the is there opportunities here, I suppose, because we always want to know what's in it for us, all right? I mean, obviously we're motivated to try and do our best for the environment and biodiversity, but also too, you want to know, like, could I change my practices to the benefit of me?
Yeah, well, commonages are notoriously difficult to do any type of work on because some of them could have up to 100 shareholders. And to do any type of work on them, you need to get the buy-in of all the shareholders. So that makes it really difficult to begin with. And a lot of the farmers who are in the Acre CP schemes, their commonage areas have been scored, and a lot of them has been scored quite low because of the condition of the habitats. So the whole idea is that if we can work with the farmers to improve those, it'll improve their payments at the end of the day.
So what did we learn from Mayo, and how did they sort of overcome the fact that, as you say, you're dealing with multiple people with probably varying interests?
Yeah, they're at a very similar stage to ourselves. They're only at the starting block there. So the initial application was wrote up with them in mind, but then when we came on board, it was expanded out. So what we're looking at doing is there'll be a project officer based in Donegal working, and there'll be a project manager in Mayo. So we'll be working alongside each other and kind of parallel. From my understanding is that maybe the practice is a little bit different in Mayo, and maybe there could potentially be overgrazing on some of the mountains, whereas in our case maybe the mountains are understocked and there's not as much grazing, which means that the heather then can take hold and grow, and it makes it more difficult to manage. Even when the heather gets too long, it's more difficult for farmers to put their sheep out in the mountain because there's very little grazing and that there for them.
Okay, so. How are you reaching the? I mean, obviously, it's good to get for us to be chatting here and to reach out to people. So, have you also reached out to shareholders of commonage in the area we're talking of separately? Is there a list? Can they be reached like that, or are you hoping that they will self-identify and come forward?
Yeah, well, this is the initial stage. We had a meeting in January or February, and it was just to see would the shareholders and the farmers in the area be interested in for us going forward and putting in this application. And buy-in in the room was quite positive on that evening. So now we're going back to the landowners and the shareholders and saying, look, this has been approved, and now we want to know, are you definitely interested in going ahead with that? Now the last meeting, I think we had about 50 shareholders at the meeting, so we will be hoping that we would have a good turnout at the meeting this Thursday as well, and that will give the farmers a better understanding of what's going to be involved in this project as well. So there will be representatives from South Mayo Development Company there and Wild Atlantic Nature, and they'll be able to give a little bit more information. And then from there, we'll be reaching out to the individual shareholders and landowners.
All right, and talk to us one more time, or explain to us one more time the areas covered here.
Yeah, so you're talking about the area between Errigal and Muckish Mountain, and over to the coast at Crockfall, like kind of a triangle area, like kind of the northwest Donegal.
And the meeting is on the 19th of June. That's this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. in Austin, Lochulton, Gortahorg.
That's right,
And the idea is that everyone comes on the journey. This isn't about enforcing anything, is it? This is about everybody sort of seeing, can we all get on the same page to the benefit of everyone, but also obviously to for the sustainability of farming going forward and biodiversity.
Exactly, yeah. And like no works will take place without farmer and shareholders buy-in. So it's very important that they're taken along on the journey, because these, like, it's the local people who have been managing these landscapes for a generation. They have the knowledge, they know what works best and what doesn't work. So it's important that they're involved.
All right, listen, thank you so very much indeed. Have a wonderful day. That's Josephine Kelly there. So you'll know if that's of relevance to you. Why have we a bishop and a priest outlining the health issues involved in the dangers of vaping and alcohol consumption in young people? Should that duty not lie with the Department of Health? I've never seen any adverts on radio or TV exposing the dangers of vaping. It's a medical issue, not a religious one. But I mean, for many people, they look to the church for leadership as well, to very respected voices. It is obviously in the context of the pledge being adapted to include vaping, so they've got a horse in the race, you know. And it's relevant to those who are making their confirmation or are of the Catholic religion, I suppose. In terms of vaping, there's stuff out there about whether or not we should be doing it, but not enough. I feel vapes are the worst thing introduced. I know kids who use them who never ever smoked. I witnessed a young fella buying 34 in various fragrances. He was in his school uniform. Most of them are now addicted. Well, listen, if you consume nicotine, you don't just have a go and then stop. You are, if you start doing it regularly, you're stuck. And it's an addiction that is very, very hard to relieve yourself of. Hi, Greg. Is there a collision on in Letterkenny Town? The two lanes from the Dry Arch is gridlocked. Also, Leck Road at Old Town, Ballymacool at Old Duns, totally blocked. That was at 9:30, so I'm not sure what happened. Sorry, I only got to that right now. Greg, you earlier gave me a heart attack. My husband's birthday is the 18th of July. You said this was the 17th of July instead of June. I'm sorry, but now, look, you've got a month. You've got a month now to make sure that, and you know, us men need a little bit more care and attention, I think. You know, we need better presents, more tea in bed. You know, I think we're losing the art of caring for our men. Not. Greg, I'm so glad you have the rally to talk about and the Lexus and other cars. I hope that's not anyone related to you has a modified car. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think so. Is anyone related to me have a modified car? I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. No. And if they do, I'm not their keeper. You know what I mean? Like, you're not your brother's keeper. I don't judge people on what their family or father or brother or son does. Each individual's their own. But I don't think so. Have I ever driven a modified car? Yeah. Did I forget to tell the insurance company I put a tow bar on once? Yes, I did, believe it or not. And then I remembered and told them, you know, I'm not preachy. I'm not an angel. People can do whatever they like. I've got a role here to try and make sure the information's out there. But at the end of the day, if you want to drive around in your Lexus in one wheel, that's up to you. But I've told you what the guards are saying, right? People living on roads where boy and girl racers do donuts or racing are dreading this weekend. Asking people to get the number plates of a speeding car is ridiculous. Greg seems to think the rally is a great thing, with no thought for us living beside roads where these racers speed and disturb us and our farm animals. No, I mean, I've just said it's good for the economy. Literally had two guests on warning of people not to do that. Warning of a guard saying you can't have a loud exhaust. You can't diff in public. Like quite literally, two guards in here telling people to just that they can't do this behaviour. And you believe I'm insensitive to the realities of the rally. Anyway, that's fine. Check out all the information. The HSE wants to opt out of organ donation. The computer system was hacked before. Can they guarantee all this info won't be stolen? Look, at the end of the day, tell your parent, tell whoever, tell your loved ones you don't want. You can't drag the organs from you. You know, like people at the moment now, people are organ donors, and their you know, the wife or husband says, "Nah, sorry, their organs are coming home with me." Like opt out if you want to, but currently, family can still block organ donation. You know, there's not going to be an organ factory somewhere with everyone's organs on ice. You still have you still can say, nah, don't touch them. They're not going to fight with you. In fact, in some hospitals, there's not even someone there to discuss organ donation at times. Well done to you and Highland team for all them statistics on the imbalance at LUH from a lot of other hospitals. Shame. Yeah, I can't take credit for it. We give them a platform, but it's the medical professionals themselves that have come up with them. What about all the patients sent from Letterkenny to Dublin and Galway? They add to their workload, none referred back. It's all part of the same conversation. The more services we have in Letterkenny, the less travel there is for people. Hi, Greg. What's the story going into Ballybofey via Letterkenny on Sunday from Gore to Hawk for the Donegal game? Would it be better taking a different route? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I can't give you that answer with any. Would you not go through Glenties though? Go down that road and in through Glenties. Right, and things will move fine. It's just really probably the Polestar will be a bit jammered. I better take a break because I have another guest coming up.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
This July 18th and 19th, Gweedore comes alive with Salt Music Festival 2025. On Saturday 19th, experience The Stunning, the Sharon Shannon Big Band with Garen Noon, the Luke Combs Experience, and many more. For more information and tickets, go to saltfela.ie. Salt Music Festival 2025. 2 days, one place, great music.
I was in pain with my right hip, going to different countries on a flight. With the pain I was in, wasn't really an option. I googled hospitals in Belfast and Kingsbridge came up.
Republic of Ireland residents can get rapid access to cross-border surgeries at Kingsbridge private hospitals in Belfast and Derry, with medical costs reimbursed by the HSE. Find out more at kingsbridgeprivatehospital.com/cross-border. Kingsbridge, your fast track to 5-star care. Terms and conditions apply. GP referral required.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up, fresh colour for your walls, or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
Are you calling me a liar? No, that's not. I'm telling you, this isn't what I ordered. Don't give me that look, you little...
Work-related violence and aggression, it's not just part of the job. As an employer, it's your responsibility to protect workers. For guidance and to learn more about your duties, visit hsa.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Okay, so cloud will break. The sun might make an appearance later this afternoon. Temperatures 16 to 21 degrees. Colin White's National Advocacy and Projects Manager with the Irish Kidney Association. Good morning to you, Colin.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for joining us. A big day today. The first phase of the Human Tissues Act 2024 comes into operation, and it effectively means that everyone is considered an organ donor unless they opt out or are included in a so-called excluded group. How big a deal do you see this is?
I would say it's important. I own right, the patient will not be a game changer, but it is part of a jigsaw. And certainly the Irish Kidney Association, we're very pleased this day has finally come. And I think for your listeners to understand that the current system up to date has been that to be a potential or
just one second, Colin. I'm actually going to stop your video just to focus on audio, if that's okay, because it's important that I hear what you're saying. So I've done that, Colin, on my end, and I should do it on as well. So, sorry, you were saying the situation now compared to where we're going.
Yeah, the system up until today was a potential donor is identified in an intensive. You've got to be in you on a life support machine when you're declared brainstem dead. So previously, it was at that point your family would be for consent for organ donation. If they said yes, it went ahead. If they said no, it did not. So the legislation is introducing an opt-out register. So if for any reason your listeners would prefer not to be a potential organ, will now
no, unfortunately, Colin, unfortunately, that just the line is just not suitable, and it's such an important issue. And I've got some very important questions. Caroline, I just wonder if we might check if Colin is available tomorrow. Caroline, I've lost Colin. The signal's so poor. We might get back to him tomorrow. If that's okay, because as I say, I've lots of questions, because I said a little earlier on that the family may well still get the last word, and I just want to clarify that because it may not be the case. Some of your texts here, right? Hold up a second, Greg. Aren't all images of that nature, whether the subject exists or is fictional, already illegal? Pretty sure that is the case currently, hence why I asked previously, isn't this already illegal? I just hope it is, to be honest with you. That was my question, because anything that sort of gives these people that might be interested in that any pass at all, I would want blocked. So I'm not sure. And then the answer to that became a little bit more less complicated, less clear. So it's something I want to check. It should definitely be the case that any image, whether real or not, purporting or portraying children in this position should be illegal, and anyone responsible for creating or distributing them needs to be locked up. I don't understand how these things aren't already captured under standing law relating to the issue. Like, how does AI make it legal when the existence of the images is illegal already? It's just a complicated space, isn't it? And until such time as something's put on the statute, it's like in cases of domestic violence. You would think, wouldn't you, that if you strangle someone, that's already illegal. In your home, for an example, but there had to come in a law to make that specifically illegal. It probably would have been covered by abuse or assault, but it had to be made a specific crime for prosecutorial purposes. I think that's a fair enough analogy. Do you know what I mean? So whilst it might seem obviously illegal, sometimes you do need a specific law to ensure that people get charged for that and face the full extent of the serious nature of that crime. Can the Guards stop the rallying on the R254 where they stop traffic and race cars? It is part of national park with wildlife and sheep grazing. The official rally does nothing to stop this illegal activity, and it's not their job. I understand where you're coming from. I get your frustration. We'll pass that on to the Guards on your behalf. Jim McGuinness talking about travelling to Roscommon. Donegal do not get a fair share of anything with the GEA and always forced to travel across the country for matches. Are the parts of Mayo as far away from Roscommon, the Grand in Roscommon, as there are parts of Donegal? So I saw someone say that. I'm not sure. Re-NCT, I was originally booked for the 24th of August. Today at 10 a.m. on the website, I got it moved to the 24th of June. So there you go. The reason I say 12 is because you get in, but it's worth checking every morning. So that's a big difference. That's that, listener. I know we can book it and then you worry about driving for the next couple of months and you get the wrong guard. They can take your car off you. So just having it booked in and of itself is not necessarily enough. NCT booking, if you ring the office in Dublin, you get a date sooner. Indeed, but I just like the after 12 thing because you get a date really, really sooner. And I've not found the NCT staff on the phone to be the most friendly of people, if that makes sense. I just checked the RSA site and you can get an NCT in Carndon. It looked like there was a good few options, indeed. As I say, I checked last week for Letterkenny, and the following week there was all day, every day, there was options. Where can I make my opt-out for organ donation? I will trust my next of kin to make that decision at that time. Well, I'll find that information out and give it to you. When we're discussing it tomorrow, if that's okay. Because it didn't come live right at the very start of the day. I think it was 10 o'clock, but I'll check all that out for you. Wondering if Greg could contact the council. Traffic lights on the bridge on Castlefin. The light is red for a long time, but the green is only on for about 10 seconds. It's been reported to the council several times. The traffic is especially bad on Sunday mornings after Mass. Caroline, can will we raise that with the council? The Castlefin, we are doing so. Okay, I'll do that for you. I love the way you think it's me that does it. I do some stuff, but it's all Caroline. Just to flag that Greg was wondering if the new EU law criminalised the production the production of all child sexual abuse material. I can confirm they do, as the development, possession and distribution of artificial intelligence systems used to produce child sexual abuse content is now criminalised. That's an update on that, so that's good. That's good. It does extend to that. Greg, I just heard you mention the sharing of information. I was looking for information from Donegal Coco and find I have to go to the council office to view it. Thing is, I can't find the location address of the council building anywhere on the website. Is it a secret? Right, I don't know exactly what that's related to. Would the public services buildings do, or does it have to be Lifford? You can't miss it, though, if you go into Lifford. The game, there might be not a big crowd on Sunday because it will take an hour to get to Ballabuffaid. Everyone has to drive through Letterkenny, but if you a couple of thousand people would have travelled to Cork if we were drawn that way, and lots of people spent 4.5 hours going to Roscommon. So being discommoded for an hour in our own county, I don't think it's going to discourage lots of people. We'll see. Okie doke, thanks so much for being